Hey, good morning to the members of the 151 and the chaplain detachment. And I think we have some individual augmentees from some other units. Welcome to our virtual Yellow Ribbon event. We're glad you could make it today because if we had done this in person, we probably would all be stuck in the snow. So thanks for your attendance. And we will start with our list of what we're going to do today. We're going to have first our cadre, and she's going to talk about negotiating a new normal. Then we'll have our resource providers. They will come on about 9 o'clock and talk to you about the programs they offer. And then our cadre will be back again with Address Your Stress. We'll have a finance brief after that, and then a resilience talk. So we will go and have negotiating a new normal now with our cadre.
Thank you, Sergeant Martinson. I'm going to share my screen here. Maybe. All right. Let me see if I can get my camera going here. Practice, as they say, practice makes perfect, but that's not exactly true, is it? As Sergeant Martinson said, that we're going to talk about renegotiating a new normal. I'll try to get my camera up in a little bit, but there it is. So welcome. And like Sergeant Martinson said, thank you for attending today. As you know, we've got snow everywhere. I've got snow here about 4 inches, and probably wouldn't have been able to make the travel either, since I was coming from Virginia and you guys are in North Carolina. So we're just going to have a great day online here. And we're going to talk about today in this session, renegotiating a new normal after deployment. And really, we could leave after the deployment on and just talk about renegotiating a new normal as to what our life has been in the last couple years. I'm not exactly sure how long you have been deployed. So I'm assuming COVID's been around, since COVID's been around for almost 2 years now, that you deployed amongst the COVID, the complications that it had put on our lives. So you're adding deployment on top of that. So there's a lot of things that you've had to renegotiate, even with COVID. And then, like I said, we're putting deployment on top of that. So we're going to talk about things that you may need to think about as you're coming back off of deployment, and that we're not going to go into each of these like legal, dental, financial, all that in depth, because that's what your resource providers are going to do. I'm just going to kind of open up a conversation with you and make you start thinking of questions that you can ask those providers. So we're going to look at those and see what adjustments need to be made, maybe in the legal area, in the medical area, in your financial area, and even in your employment area. And then, like I said, you're going to have resource providers in those areas that you can ask specific questions to if you have questions. And I really advise you, if you don't have a pencil or pen and a piece of paper in front of you, to go get one so that you can jot down things as they come up. Because if you're like me at all, you think you'll remember it, and you don't. So just jot things down, and I'm going to ask you questions, and I'm going to ask for comments from you also. So I am going to, you can see me look at the side here. I'm monitoring the chat box also here on Facebook, so that when I ask you a question, or if you have a question for me, that I would be able to answer it. So renegotiating a new normal, first of all, we have to kind of define what normal is. And as you can see on the screen, it's really illusion, isn't it? Because what's normal for the spider is chaos for the fly. So basically what that is saying, it depends on which perspective you're looking at the situation, what could be considered normal. A lot of people say that normal is just a setting on a dryer, and that there really is no normal. And what is normal for you and your family might not be normal for a buddy of yours or someone that you serve with in their family. So you can't compare your family or your situation with others, because it's like comparing apples and oranges, because you're all at different stages of life. You're all have different experiences you're going through, just a gamut of variables that are taking place in your life and in the environment around you, that you can't really compare you to other people. So I want you to keep that in mind also. You can't compare either. If those of you that this is your first deployment, if you could put in the chat box what number deployment this is for you. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've had up to 9 deployments before. So if you could just kind of give me an idea on the chat box there on Facebook, what number deployment it is for you, I kind of know where your experience level is on renegotiating a new normal coming up for a deployment. So some say 1, a couple of 1s, and someone 3 times, 2 times. So those of you that have deployed before, you know that this is probably a different deployment, and every deployment's different. Those of you that this is your first deployment, you didn't really know what to expect. And so you can ask for advice and stuff for individuals that have deployed before, if you have that opportunity. But every deployment is different, because your mission might be different, where the location that you went may be different, what unit that you went to may be different. So that's kind of the unit aspect. The other aspect is the family aspect. Maybe your first deployment you weren't married, your second or third deployment you were married. Maybe you had a number of children on one deployment, and then you've added children to it since the other deployment. So there's all kinds of things that have happened to in your life from one deployment to another that makes them different. With that being said, there's a lot of similarities also with being deployed multiple times. Even though your situation has changed, there's always going to be that honeymoon period. There's always going to be that readjustment period when you come home. There's always going to be having to get back into the workforce. So there are differences, but there are similarities. So I'm going to show you a video, a very short video. It happens to be a husband and wife that both of them are in the military, and both of them have been deployed before. And as they talk, kind of in your mind, think of, is that happening in your situation also? You might not both be service members, but you'll get the gist of it, that as they talk, and just kind of write down some of the similarities that some of the things that they talk about, if it's similar in your situation. So with that, I'll show the video.
When she comes back, though, that's where the changes are. I can't do the things that I was doing when she was away, because now it's me and her. So that's where we started bumping heads. I've been doing it this way while you've been gone. It's not the way we're going to do it now. So I guess that's where we started bumping heads. It's how to live together again. While she was gone, she wanted to, I had to worry about the toothpaste in the sink, or the hair dryer hanging or in the drawer, just little nitpicking things of living together. Back together. Go back.
Like starting all over again. I mean, it's like almost like being newlyweds. try to figure out what each other's likes and dislikes are, because age, you mature, you change, have different dislikes. So it was kind of difficult when I first got back, but um, I don't know. I guess I was smart enough. I hope I was smart enough to kind of step back a little bit and realize he was doing this really well before, and continue to let him. That's why he still continues to do our finances, because he did a good job while I was gone, and so he feels better about himself doing that. Works for the family, so gave up that control and let him do it. So it works. Understanding, and I think he was pretty patient too, and knowing that I wasn't trying to come back in and jump right in.
All right. Thank you for answering questions in the chat. A lot of you did. I see we have anywhere from 1, 2, and 3 deployments. So did any of the things that they said resonate with you? Was it hard coming back? The coming back, no matter if you were the service member that was deployed, or if you're the family member that stayed home and took care of things that needed to be taken care of. Was it hard to do that, especially for the first timers? Did you kind of know what to expect, that there would be that honeymoon period, and that things would be different, and that it would take time to kind of reintegrate back in? And like she said, it's kind of like starting over again, because you've changed. No matter what, time goes on during deployment, and no matter if you were deployed or not, things would change, but you were changing together. But since you were apart, because of the deployment, you changed and you weren't together. So sometimes that's a hindrance, and sometimes it isn't. So if you could put in the chat if anything of those resonated with you, that would be great. So I think a big takeaway from that is that that again, changes took place during the deployment. They're going to take place no matter what. And many of the areas that are part of our life need to be renegotiated. Just like she said, the finances. She used to take care of the finances, and now he took them over while she was deployed, and he did a great job. So he's continuing to do the finances. That was the same with my husband when he was deployed. He did 30 years as active duty Army. And during those 30 years, he was gone. When I say deployed for me is when my husband is not sleeping next to me in my bed, because the Army sent them somewhere, no matter wherever the where is. He was gone probably 13 to 15 of those years, of those 30 years. So we had a lot of reintegrations. Back in the day, they weren't called that, but we still experienced. And so there was a lot of things that he did that I took over, because he was gone so much that we needed that continuity in paying the finances. And back then, I'm showing my age here, you can probably tell by just looking at me, but if we were pre-computer, we had to, write a check, put it in an envelope, and put a stamp on it and send it in the mail. So if he wasn't there by a certain date, we were late. And so with him coming and going, that was one area that we had to renegotiate, that I started, took over. And then it takes time, getting back into the swing of things, it takes time. Make sure that you listen to each other. That's important. Communication is the key, and the key only works if you use it in the lock. So you might know it's the key, but you have to communicate and use it. And you always want to speak the truth and be kind in a caring manner. There's a lot of things that, you never want to go into, oh, I had it worse than you, or you had it worse than me, that woe is me syndrome, because it was, could have been, it was disruptive for both of you. Okay. All right. So, Josh White said, hey, Janine. Hi, Josh. Thanks for saying hi and good morning. All right. So I will continue to monitor the chat. So I do have some questions for you. And And we're going to look at them from the warrior zone, from those that were deployed, and from the home front, those that stayed back and were not deployed. So first of all, I would like you to list 3 things that have changed at home or with your family during the deployment. And kind of think of the how things have changed and why they changed when you're listing those 3 things. At home, what changed at home or with your family? Did you add another? Did a birth occur? God forbid if a death occurred. If you had to have a parent or sibling, older sibling come and live back at home with you. Any of that stuff affected you at home and with your family. And also list 3 things that changed about you during the deployment and how and why. So I want both the service members and the family members, if we have some of those online, that to answer both of these. Think about it. So things that changed at home and with your family and with you, and think about the how and why. Okay. So I had somebody get 21 new ducks. Yes, that would be a big change at home. I don't know if you were prepared for that or not, but if you were the one that happened to take care of them at home, that was a big change because you had a new feeding schedule and all that. Being an old farm girl, I know how that goes, and 21 ducks are a lot. Another one said that they had, well, we got lots of farmers, new pigs and a new horse, farm changes. Yeah, as the farm changed, so does the workload. So that means someone happened to take on new responsibilities of work. I also had individuals that had friends and relatives that passed away and returning to a work environment where most of the staff had changed. So, gosh, that's a lot of change right there, even if you weren't deployed. But that happened during a deployment. So that kind of compacts things and compacts the effect that it has on you because you're not there to help with whatever needs to be done. And so a lot of times that adds stress onto you, which we're going to talk about later. But just that's a lot of things that have happened. Some people got new jobs. Some people started school and a doctoral school. So some people moved, new job. And we have changes in our pets. There's all kinds of things. So as you think about that and hear about what other people are going through, that there was a lot of change that happened in your deployment, that things have to be renegotiated and relooked at when you get home and off of back from deployment. So that's just in your personal life and your civilian life and your work life. So as we go into now about how to kind of create a new normal, look how to renegotiate, we're going to look at these aspects here, or different categories of kind of think about any of those things that you talked about had impact in these different categories, like in the legal and the administrative. Do you need to think about your wills now? Has anything changed that you need to change your will? Power of attorneys. Did you give power of attorney to somebody before you deployed? Now you have to rescind that power of attorney. Your DEERs or ID cards. A lot of things that we forget about is the expiration of our ID cards. As my husband being a retiree, his never expires. I forget that mine does. And a few years ago, I went to go through a gate at installation and my ID card was expired. It didn't even dawn on me that it could be expired. And so what did they do? They took my ID. I had to get a little slip of paper. I had to go back. And, thank goodness my husband wasn't traveling at that time, but I didn't think ahead. So now I look at my expiration date all the time, and just things to think about as you come back on off of your deployment. So that's legal, and we're going to have legal speak later on today. So that's in transition. So this is kind of the resource providers that could help you with any of these things that are going to be later on today. Transition assistance, family assistance, and the legal. All right. Next, we have medical and dental considerations. There's all kinds of things that go on with that you guys, coming off of orders, how long do you have after you come off of orders, all of that. There's usually a lot of questions about that. Regarding that, we're going to have Tricare talk later on. So if you can think of any questions for that, again, transition assistance and all of that, that start thinking about questions if you have them of situations that are in your life now because you're back from deployment. So that's VA benefits, and Tricare can talk to that. So your financial situations, are you having any problems with your LES? Did you do your savings deposit program? Taxes are coming up. What do you need to do or know about taxes because you went on deployment? I'm not sure where you deployed. Were you deployed in a tax-free zone? Were you not deployed in a tax-free zone? All of that kind of information and stuff you need to know now that tax time's coming up. Okay, so all of that, again, legal, finance, and your VA benefits. Those individuals can answer any of those questions for you that you may have around any of those financial considerations. Okay, I'm trying to keep on the chat here as I talk. So if I kind of lose my train of thought, I'm trying to read and talk at the same time. All right. Job consideration. Some of you said that you got new jobs. Some of you may be looking for new jobs. Some of you may be coming back to a job that you no longer know your coworkers anymore. And so there's help for that. And if you're having problems with coming back to a job and maybe you're passed over for performance, the USERA Act can help you with that. All kinds of help out there. So again, think about if you have questions in those areas, those of you that have got a new job or going back to a different job situation, these are the individuals coming up that can help you with those. Okay. I got ahead of myself here. So I'm going in the wrong direction, Janine. I have to talk to myself or things don't work. All right. So let me see on the chat here if we have anything. Okay, looks like we're good on the chat here. Again, if you have any questions or comments, please do so. So those are kind of changes coming up that are broad categories that you might have questions in. I'm going to show you a video again, and this is an individual that talks about the different perspectives that he always thought about deployment from his perspective, and then he had to kind of stop and look at things from his spouse's perspective. So I'll go ahead and show that for you.
Assimilating back into the family was a little difficult. My wife had been in charge and had obviously done very well without me. Well, I come back and just didn't pay any attention. So we had some times there. But I think at the time I didn't really think about what she had went through. I was gone for 8 months in a combat zone. Well, she was in her own combat zone. I don't think it struck me at the time that she had her own challenges. She handled them very well without me. I really didn't think about it at the time. I just thought about, well, I'll come home now. I'm the dad. We're going to go do this and we're going to go do that.
All right, so that talks about the daily life things of that, you know, he was going to come home and still be large and in charge when his spouse did a fine job of it while he was gone. And that's again where you need to talk and communicate with your spouse or significant other about that's where the renegotiating goes. What's gonna change, what's gonna take place, if things are gonna stay the way they were, if they're gonna go back how they were before deployment, all that kind of stuff, you know. But there's gonna be changes again, because change happens no matter what. We know that's the only constant in the world. So changes were gonna take place no matter if the deployment happened or not. But you know, you need to allow each other space. Again, it's gonna take time to reconnect and all of that stuff. So again, I'm putting this in the forefront of your mind so that as we go through the day, that you can apply some of the stuff that you learned, maybe be able to have information or advice for your soldiers that maybe you're a leader and the soldiers come and are having problems with this, that you know where to send them, where there's help out there. There's all kinds of help out there. People aren't mind readers. They don't know you need help until you let them know. And help is not a bad 4-letter word. Help is a very good 4-letter word. And I think over the years, people have realized that. So, I mean, people as in service members coming off of deployment, and even family members that need help themselves or know that their service member needs assistance, and they know where to go to get that assistance for them. Okay. All right, so that's daily life. And so family programs is coming up, and child and youth are coming up, that if you have questions for them, I think if your children are having not problems, but challenges with the reintegration and all of that. And that kind of goes into the co-parenting. I don't know, some of you may be in a separation or divorce situation where you have dual custody of your children and they go back and forth between two households. Just keep that in mind, that you need to look at the perspective of your child and what they're going through, and that it might take time. And depending on how old they are, how old your children are, how much time it will take to be comfortable with this reintegration. You know, that your younger children might not recognize you. That's heartbreaking sometimes. It depends on how long. Again, I don't know how long you were deployed or how much communication you had with them while you were deployed, but sometimes it might take a while for younger children to reconnect with you, and they might be afraid that you're going to leave again. Again, depending on the child's age, talk to them, be honest with them. If you have teenagers, you need to talk to them. And be honest with them, because they can handle a lot. Sometimes we would think, oh, we want to feel, you know, spare their feelings, or they won't understand. But, you know, children and teenagers these days are a lot more savvy than I was growing up, and maybe you were growing up. So, and be cognizant of your spouse, your significant other, or your ex-spouse, ex-significant other, whoever you share custody with your children. If you're in that situation, that you know, that the deployment affected them also. All right, and I have on the screen here that someone's having problems with their dog, that they don't like them, and I said that kind of with a little chuckle, but it's true. You know, they hold grudges too. I have a dog myself, and you know, he can get mad at me, he can hold grudges. So it might take a while for your dogs and even your farm animals, if you had horses that you had to leave, or if you had, you know, some other kind of pet that you had to leave, that they know that you were gone. They don't know why, but it might take a while for them to warm up with you being home also. All right. Again, family programs can help with that if you're having situations with co-parenting, or you need some help with your children. And again, help is not a bad word, and it doesn't mean that, you know, your children are going down crazy lane. It's not. They just, everybody's different. They adjust different. And sometimes we think as parents that our children, that we should be able to be the be all end all for our children, and we're not. a lot of times they take advice and take correction better from other people. And so if you can find somebody that your child connects with other than you, if you're having a problem connecting with them, that's not a bad thing. I really had to give up on that too, because my daughter and I kind of butt heads sometimes. She's 28 years old, almost 29, and we still butt heads, but she listens to one of my girlfriends a lot better than me. So I've talked to, I've had to talk to my girlfriend to talk to my daughter, and it just works out a little bit better. And I've had to relinquish that part of my motherhood to say it's not meaning I'm a bad mother. It just means that my daughter and I have a hard time communicating on some subjects. So keep that in mind also. And again, my husband was deployed for a year when our daughter was 2, and I thought that it was the end of the world, that she would never remember him, and it would affect her for the rest of her life. So I did everything that I could, back then, I'm telling my age again, and back then it was 1993. We had no, email, we had no video chat, we had no FaceTime, any of that. So it was letters back and forth and video, old fashioned big VHS videotapes. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to ruin her. And she really didn't have a lot of trouble reintegrating back with her father. But I asked her about it. She goes, Mom, I don't remember that. And, and we have to remember that sometimes they might be going through a situation right now, but later in time, that they might not even remember what they went through. Okay. All right. With that being said, some other resources, you're going to see them today. Military One Source is one of the resources I believe is not on the line with us today, but if you are not familiar with Military One Source, get on the Googles, as my mom calls it, and look up Military One Source, because there's a lot of resources that are available to you through Military One Source, and they have a lot of resources for children, and they have a lot of resources that they can send you via the mail and have hard copies of. All right, I'm going to look at the chat one more time and see if we have any other questions on the chat. I'm going to give a little time here because I know there's a little bit of lag time. But again, I thank you for your time. The point of this session was for you to get thinking of, as the resource providers come up, what questions you may have for them, what has changed in your life that you need to renegotiate. And just to remember that communication is the key. We have to use that key in order for it to work. All right. Thank you for your time, and I'm going to turn it back over to the Yellow Ribbon staff, and I will see you later on this afternoon.
Good morning, this is Sergeant Hill. We're going to move on to the resource providers. I want to let you know that all of these PowerPoints and the handouts that the providers are going to talk about are available on the yellowribbon.mil page. That's the same page that you register for the event on. I understand there's some the people out there that don't have Facebook. If you email me or Sergeant Campoli, that email should be pushed out. We will get your questions to the resource providers and get them to answer that for you. I apologize for you not being able to answer questions on the Facebook. And I want to welcome the 136 Chaplain Detachment.
All right. Hey, everybody. Good morning. Hey, Wayne, your camera's on. I don't know if everybody wants to see you in your lovely self, but anyway, it's on. If you care to shut it off, I'd appreciate it. All right. Hey, everybody. I'm Matt DeVivo. I'm the Transition Assistance Advisor for the North Carolina Guard. My sole purpose is to link you up with the benefits and programs and services you've earned. First off, I want to say, and I'll just say it on behalf of the Adjutant General, who is an aviator as well, thank you for your service, mom and dad, kids. I've been there for deployments. I've been in your boots, and these yellow ribbons are a necessity, and they're very important. And if one thing you get out of today, remember my phone number and my email, because I'm here to serve you. Next slide. What can I do? Well, there's 10 different categories across the board that you've earned. You are veterans. Your wife's a veteran. Your spouse, your husband, your significant other are veterans now. There are billions of dollars out there of government money. Let Grandpa Joe give you the money that you've earned. Legal assistance, career assistance, employment. I will help you get to a warm body and not a 1-800 number to help you with any questions you have. If you haven't thought about your benefits till you just got home from your deployment, now's the time to think about the benefits and programs you've earned. Why is this beautiful picture up of a great America? Because if you leave North Carolina, we will follow you. There are transition assistance advisors in every state. I'll get you with those folks, and they will again help you, connect you with someone who can get you and register you for the benefits you've earned, whether it's transferring education benefits to your kids, getting better life insurance, changing jobs. You come home and you realize, I really don't like my boss. We've got employment folks that can help you get a new job. I'll link you up with those people. That's all I do now. I'm retired. What else do I got to do but help you? And I will. Next slide. This QR code, have your kids take a picture of it. You can scan it, do what you want with it, but don't forget this QR code. It's just 7 simple little fields to fill out, and you can give me your name, email, phone number, and the questions you have, and I'll get back with you. I promise. Yes, I promise. 24 hours. I will call you, or I will have one of my colleagues reach out to you and find out what your question is about benefits or programs. If you're getting problems with even with your commander, heck, I can work with you. We can do anything you want. I've been a guardsman all my career. I know the system. I've been a reservist too. So we will help you get the benefits and programs you've earned. So use that QR code, take a photo of it, and then scan it later on, have someone else scan it from your phone. And that's how you can reach out to me. Don't forget my number, next slide. And my email, Matt DeVivo, Transition Assistance Advisor. I will link you up with your benefits, folks. If you don't know what I'm talking about, let's talk and we will discuss. Pending any questions, everybody, welcome home. And I'll see you at the next Yellow Ribbon event. Back to you, Ken.
Hello, everybody. Am I coming through? This is Mr. David Kovach. I am a Soldier and Family Readiness Specialist for the Morrisville Armory, and I have been the one calling your family members during your deployment with outreach calls to check in on them, and now I'm in the contact phase where I call them every month, and to make sure your reintegration and transition back to family life is going all right. I am first going to talk about our Child and Youth program. The Child and Youth mission is to promote the quality of life and improve the resilience of the National Guard children and youth that we have through programming and resources. Next slide. Next slide.
Give it a second.
Is anybody hearing me? Oh, there we go. The Child and Youth has different programs. The Teen Council meets on the second Tuesday each month, and they are expecting just welcome new additions to these teen groups. The youth camp is from 17 to 22 July, from ages 6 to 13, and the teen retreat is 19 to 24 June, 14 to 18. Next slide. Educational resources are available and through the Department of Public Instructions. The next slide. Next slide. It's not changing slides. There we go. These are some of the resources that can save you money. Everybody knows about Army fee assistance, but unless you're deployed or active duty, they don't. That's not a program that anybody can use. But we have the Purple Camp registration opens in February, and Camp Corrals and other summer things that they have for child and youth registration opens also on February 1st. Other military resource programs. Next slide. These are great partnered programs that they resources with child and youth from birth to 18. You've got military kids and so forth, as you can see on the Exceptional Manly Femur, EFMP, 0 to 3, and MCEC, Military Child Education Coalition. The next slide, please. Going kind of quick with these. The Teen Council meets the second Tuesday monthly. Registration for all upcoming events will be open 1 month prior to the event day. Next slide, please. Next slide. Brian, are you there? Next slide.
I'm almost on your last slide. You're skipping through.
This is. I got 2 more slides. Just 1 more slide left. It's about the social media. They want to make sure everybody knows that they can follow them on social media, and to download the ARNG CYS app or visit the website for a lot of resources. If you're interested in events and your kids are hesitant, then have them look at the photos from the past youth events. Sometimes that will energize them to want to get involved. If you have any additional questions, just please reach out to the child and youth team. And my next slides are on what I do, which is family programs. I'd like to start with the map on slide 4, please. Right there. This map shows how that all of our soldier and family readiness specialists are divided throughout the state. They are assigned by counties. They have these counties which encompass all the units that are in those counties. And I'm in the red section. That's I'm in Morrisville. But the reason why I've shown this map is because if you have a situation where you have an issue of some kind and you need some resources, and you live in a different county, you may drill in the counties where I'm at, but you may live in another county where there's another soldier and family readiness specialist. Then I would refer your case to them, because if you're looking for local resources, we partner with a lot of local resources, church groups, organizations, things like that. That would be the best way to serve you. Otherwise, I could help you with everything else. We do have a lot of guard resources that we could give you, and I'll talk about those on the next slide. The next slide, please. These are some of the things that we have available as resources. Now, everybody's heard of these grants, the SAAF grant, Soldier and Airman Assistant Fund. These are for emergency funds. I have lots of times have helped process these for soldiers and family members who have an emergency. Something happens, their car breaks down the same time the washer goes or whatever like that, and they can't pay the rent or something like that. And then this way they can apply for this grant. It's an emergency, and they can have their bills paid through that. We have food boxes on hand. We can do referrals for financial assistance and financial counseling, which we do have counselors now. We have 3 in the state. Finding resources for your community, like I said before, within your county. We do the holiday assistance at Christmas and Thanksgiving. We have, you can apply and get food for Thanksgiving, a turkey and food and fixings. And at Christmas, we do the application for filling out for Christmas gifts for the children. And when available, we do have gift cards for temporary relief as well. We distribute information on the benefits and events and trainings, and so we try to keep you informed of what's going on with the Guard and important information you might need to know that could help you and your family. So we do support soldiers and their family members, and also veterans and other members of the armed forces. It doesn't matter. If they need help with resources, they can come to us and we will service them. And we also, we do that through Facebook meetings, email, social media, and phone, and text messages. So we try to use all the avenues of communication. The next slide. This is very important. What to expect after deployment from family programs. I think Ms. Johnson went through some of these in her talk, but we have to continue contacting these family members. We do it during the deployment. It's called outreach, and try to resolve any issues they're having. It could be anything like, gee, David, we really miss my son. He really misses his dad, and he's acting out, and I don't know what to do. Well, you know, we have the integrated behavioral health and child and youth that can help out with resources to help find, you know, to help bring that along and help with that issue. But there could be a lot of different things. It could be that they need help with getting something fixed in their home or something. But anyway, we're there for them in any way we can provide resources, whether they're local resources, community resources, or Guard resources that are in place. The Soldier and Family Readiness Specialties, we continue making wellness checks even after the deployment. It's called Contacts, which I'm involved in right now with your unit. And I just check in every month to make sure that the transition and reintegration is going all right, and if the soldier is adjusting well, and how the family members are doing. And I continue to work with all the commanders and other of my counterparts to identify any other kind of things we can help with, providing training and accommodate needs for reintegration. Next slide is basically things to think about after deployment. This is a lot like what Ms. Johnson was talking about. Soldier once returned may not feel like socializing. You need to give them time to adjust and slowly return to household responsibilities. Allow time for the children to adjust. Newborn children may have to relearn the deployment parent. That happens when they're very young. They don't know. They haven't been around long enough to remember the father or mother. Some kids feel like you left them, so they build relationships slowly. Some of them feel like they've been abandoned or neglected or just they're not very happy about it. So but lots of times it's just the opposite. You know, they're very excited and they adjust quite quickly. But in cases like that, that's where integrated behavioral health comes in, and child and youth can help you with different things that work for that. So if you recognize these severe changes in your loved ones, when possible, like depression and unusual mood changes, that's when I was talking about that you need to reach out and get the help that you need. Things to know before you go. This next slide is just basically the list of the people in our program. Our director is Major Michelle Pruitt, and the State Child and Youth Coordinator, Christy Wagner, and our lead Soldier and Family Readiness is George Lane. And my name is Dave Kovach. I'm the Soldier and Family Readiness Specialist for the Morrisville units. And I encourage you to reach out to me if you have any issues or concerns or questions about anything, and I'll be happy to refer you to where you need to go to find out what you need. And anything I can do personally for you, I will also be happy to do that. So if they're barring any other questions or things, you can get my information on the slides that you have access to. And most of you should have my number from outreach and my email. So I thank you for letting me be a part of this and listening, and have a great day.
Hi, my name is Era Lopez. I'm here to talk about the North Carolina National Guard Legal Assistance Program. We are on the 3rd floor of Joint Force Headquarters in Raleigh, and we are open Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30 p.m. So the office is staffed by attorneys that provide assistance with a variety of legal issues. So some of them you'll see on here. The main ones are family law issues. So that's things like divorce, custody, and support issues. Estate planning, you see on there, wills and powers of attorney. We also do military admin issues. So things like GOMAR, FLIPO, and security clearance rebuttals. Of course, landlord-tenant issues. And importantly, right now, we do prepare federal and state tax returns for free. It is by appointment only, and it would only be Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. It's the same number as the legal assistance office where you can book that. You'll see on there it's 9664-6220. If you didn't hear your legal issue or you don't see it on the slide there, feel free to call us and we can discuss it. We may be able to assist you or at least point you in the right direction. It might be one of the other programs on here, or it might just be a different office that can assist you. But feel free to call us and then we can figure that out together. All calls are confidential and they are protected by attorney-client privilege. And I do want to point out the program is available to all service members from all branches and all components. So Air Force, Army, National Guard, the reservists. It's also available to retirees and their dependents. So that's whoever's on your DEERS can use our program as well. So I can't take any legal questions here, but I will leave you with our phone number again. That is 984-664-6220. As you can see it on there, and like I said, that's also the number for the tax center if you wanted to book an appointment to have your taxes prepared at our office. That's it.
Hi, my name is Victoria Knott, and I'm with the North Carolina National Guard Employment Center. Just want to give you a little bit of information about our program in case you're in need of services. You can do the first slide. Our mission, the Employment Center's mission is to increase career opportunities for North Carolina veterans and their dependents. We do work with all working age dependents. We're one of the only programs in the state that also works with children, working age children, as well as spouses. So please keep that in mind. Our goal is to develop positive relationships with employers and connect our service members with those employers in order to obtain employment. One of the big misconceptions of our program is that you have to be unemployed in order to get services, and that is not accurate. Probably 75 to 80% of the service members we're working with are currently employed. They're just either not happy with their current employment or they're underemployed. They're just not making enough to make ends meet. And we encourage them to hang on to those jobs until we can help find them more suitable employment. So keep that in mind. You do not have to be unemployed for our services. Some of the services we provide, career coaching and counseling, resume preparation, interview prep. We assist with both state and federal job applications. If any of you have gone through the USA Job applications or state government job applications, they're incredibly difficult and tricky. We work with those applications. We sponsor hiring events and job fairs. And anything you can think of that has to do with employment, we can work with. We also work closely with the education people that you'll be hearing from in a few minutes. If there's training needed or more education for a future job, we can help connect you with those people. Let you know the best way to go about that. Sometimes it's not a matter of a degree, it's just a certification you may need. We can work with that. One of the newer things we are doing is also North Carolina apprenticeships. The National Guard is finally mirroring Big Army. We can actually give you a civilian credential based on your military MOS and get you a civilian credential based on that MOS that could possibly help you with employment in the civilian sector. So if that's something you're interested in, please give us a call also. There's no charge for that. Like I mentioned, Big Army has been doing that for years, and the National Guard has finally been approved to offer that credential also. There's a list on screen, some of the employers we work with. That is just a fraction. We are working with hundreds of employers across the state. Those are just some of the ones that stand out to us or have done some things over the past couple of years. So we try to highlight them. But again, we work with many employers across the state. One of the other exciting things about our program is our location and our counselors. We cover the entire state. We go as far west as, we have a counselor as far west as Asheville and one as far east as Wilmington. We will meet you where you are. You do not have to come in person, but we are willing to do that if need be. We have nine consultants across the state, and we will work with you in your area. When you register for services, one of the questions is, where are you looking for employment? You will then be assigned to the counselor closest to your location, so they know that area to better assist you. On the screen, I have a list of the counselors and where their locations are. You do not need to write down all of these names and numbers. If you call our main number, which is 984-664-6463, or if you go to our website, www.ncngemploymentcenter.com. That is on the last slide. You will be automatically assigned to the employment counselor closest to you or closest to the county that you are looking for work in. So don't feel like you have to write down all those names. Please reach out to us. You have nothing to lose. Our services are free, as I mentioned, for all service members and their working age dependents. Please reach out to us. We'd love to help you. That's all I have. Welcome home.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ashley Martinez. I am the GI Bill Manager for the North Carolina National Guard. Our main number is 984-664-6272. We handle all of your education needs and or questions and are here for you. Next slide, please. All right. So some of the programs we oversee are your GI Bill, of course, your federal TA and your state TA, and also your CA, which is credentialing assistance. We also offer testing and reimbursement for testing for tests such as the DLPT, AFCT, the SIFT, and we also do Dante's. Right now, we are currently not operational with our testing. However, we do outsource you to Fort Bragg. We are looking to get that up and running sometime in March. For our families, we do offer guidance counseling for academic goal settings for your transfer of education benefits. I am your point of contact for that. We also reference scholarship information. We have really good ones in the office that we can outsource to you, as well as your academic goal cost estimates. Next slide, please. So I did see in the chat that some of you, this is not your first deployment. This may be your second or third. However, all of those deployments and all of that active duty time do go towards your post 9/11 GI Bill. The post 9/11 GI Bill is the only education benefit that can be transferred to your dependents. But again, when you need that, you must have at least 6 years or on or about 6 years completed and then signing on for another 4. You cannot have any flags on your profile for that transfer to take place. That will also be done on Mail Connect. There is an application to do that. If you need further assistance with that, I am also your point of contact and can help you out. So on this slide, we have a few links for you that are very helpful in starting those applications. We want you to take full advantage of all your education benefits. We offer a wide range and can definitely help you getting started or completing the process. And also, if you would like more information, please feel free to contact myself or the education office directly. We will be more than happy to assist you. Again, our number is 984-664-6272. Thank you guys and welcome home.
Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Tom Gills here, retired sergeant major, 30 years in enlisted boots. So I've been on the business end of rifles, pistols, e-tools, and every other plungers and all the other tools of our profession. So I'm really honored to be here this morning. Before I forget, I just want to say a big thanks to Brian Hill and Ken Martinson and the rest of the team who put this on. Y'all always do a world-class job. So I'm the cat and jammer that joined a team that figured out how our great officers go off to military schools like the War College and come home with that second master's, first master's. And the way that's done is, in addition to using ACE general recommended credit for the military for functional courses, we have reached out to all of the military centers of excellence, obtained your military lesson plans. This is for the soldiers. And built degrees around or applied them to best fit degrees. And then in 2018, TRADOC came out and said, hey, all you military friendly schools, we want a degree any soldier could knock out in their first term of enlistment. Purdue took that on, and what you see here on this first slide on the left is an associate's, well, what you saw was associates in small group management. And there it is. And you can see in the bottom left the focus areas, which we went to big industry, Walmart, Amazon, and they agreed, hey, for a shift leader, a burgeoning young leader, this is exactly the kind of skills we want them to look at: managing conflict, risk management, ethical decision making, etc. We stacked it into a Bachelor of Science in Professional Studies first, and we now actually have one where this stacks into a Bachelor's in Organizational Management. Next slide. So if you look on the left, you could earn an associate's in as few as 5 classes. The caveat, you have to be a basic leader course graduate E5 to take the final class, not that you couldn't start sooner. But as you can see, we actually lay out exactly where the credits come from, and then the same on the right-hand side of how it stacks into that Bachelor's in Professional Studies. What's most important, if you see down at the bottom the QR code, if you scan that in, click request info on the top right of the page that it takes you to, take about 2 minutes and put your contact in. Our advisors will contact you, tell you how to upload your joint service transcript, any other unofficial college you've accumulated. And with that, we'll provide you a very simple degree plan, 1 or 2 pages, that shows, hey, if you choose Purdue, here are the credits you would receive for your military training and transfer, and here are the specific classes you would need to take to graduate. And then as a retired sergeant major, I tell you, go look at least 2 other schools. Speed to degree is a great thing, and we kind of hang our hat on that. But we have 185 other degree programs, and more than that. And you've got a lot of other schools that want your business, so make them earn it. Over a 20-year career, you would get $4,000 a year in tuition assistance. That's $80,000. I dare say, other than, God forbid, a medical catastrophe within your family, that is the biggest monetary benefit that you would get over the course of a career. So don't leave money on the table, because every year you don't go to school, that $4,000 slips away. You can't reach back in time and get it. Again, go to the QR code, check it out. If you have any other questions, Sergeant Hill, Sergeant Martinez, the whole Yellow Ribbon team, they have my contact. I'm happy to help anybody. Welcome home to all of you. God bless you, and especially the family members, their service, your sacrifice. My wife was along for the ride the whole 30 years. And if it wasn't for her, I'd have been probably chaptered out or put in the brig as a PFC, and then my butt would still be there today. So thank you all very much. And I think I'm being followed by a great fellow colleague, Carl Miller, out of Post University. So thank you all very much. Cool.
Thank you for that, Tom. Good morning. My name is Carl Miller. I'm with Post University. Post University is a regionally accredited university located in Waterbury, Connecticut. We have 6 terms a year. They are 8 weeks in length. Our next term starts March 7th. We have many associates to master level degrees to choose from. We will have you complete an application so we can pull your JSTs and evaluate them and put them towards your educational transcripts and degree plans. This does not commit you in any way or cost you a penny. Post University has articulation agreements with some of the Army schoolhouses, just like Purdue Global mentioned previously. This is a way we can help maximize your training, turn them into credit, and put them to work for you to complete your educational journey. We will come back with a couple degree plans for you to choose from. Books are included in our courses for our military members. You can also access your books on different devices so you can work on your course when you have some downtime. The tuition rates are the same as for those seeking undergraduate level courses, as well as graduate level courses while you are serving. This is a discount that we recently made available. You can have your federal tuition assistant cover the courses. Spouses and dependents will be $750 per class for the undergraduate level courses and $1,194 for the graduate level courses. There are not any log-on times that you have to listen to any lectures or anything like that. You will complete your initial Blackboard post by Wednesday evening and complete all the rest of your work by Sunday evening. At Post University, we have a dedicated team that works together to assist you with your degree completion. This is known as the Post-Equal program. The program starts with a military enrollment representative such as myself. You will next be connected with a military enrollment advisor who will order your JSTs to be evaluated, provide you with a few different degree plans to choose from, and get you initially enrolled in your first 1 or 2 classes. From there, a military success counselor will help you guide you through the rest of the way towards your degree completion. We have courses that will earn professional certificates when you complete those courses. Those credits can be added towards a degree plan. So this way you can complete a professional certificate and a degree at the same time. We also have a list of CLEP courses that can help you complete and fast track your degree completion. Next slide. I'm going to make available my QR code here and all my contact information. I also have retired from the Army. I got my degree through Post University. I came across them when I was going through the Army recruiting schoolhouse. And for me, I started with 72 credits and I completed my journey. So please contact me so I can show you how I can best help you with your education so you can help you and your family members. I greatly appreciate your service and sacrifice to this country as well as your families. It's great that you made it back safe, and I look forward to meeting with each and every one of you in the future. Thank you very much for your time. God bless.
Good morning. I'm Wayne Truxillo with Navy Federal Credit Union. I want to welcome you back. Thank you for your service and your sacrifice. Why am I here? I'm your one spot stop for anything Navy Federal, whether you want to talk about budgeting, how to make the most of your dollars, elementary budgeting, investing, anything of that nature, please give me a call. Sergeant Hill has my contact information. It's right here. Send me an email, send me a text message, give me a call. Anything I can do to help you guys and your families, that's what I'm here for. It's easier to stretch the money you already have than to figure out how to get more money. So give me a call and we can talk that through. Again, thanks for your service. Thanks for your support. Families, thank you for your service and support. Look forward to seeing you guys next time. It's a shame we didn't get to meet in Durham, but obviously the weather had other plans. That's all I have. Thanks again for your service.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ashley Newton, and I am a licensed behavioral health therapist with IBHS, or Integrative Behavioral Health System. So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about our program. Really, what I want you to kind of take away from this is there are 3 core functions that IBHS has that can offer you some assistance. So we'll start with our wellness advocates. These are basically case managers that are available to you that can help connect you guys to different resources, whether that's assistance with food and housing, utility mortgage relief, emergency funds, employment, really anything under the sun. These ladies, we have 3 case managers that work for our program who probably have about 30 years of experience combined working with the North Carolina National Guard. So if there's something that you are in need of, these ladies know how to get you there. The other interesting and very awesome resource that we have, and I say this because, again, keep in mind all of these services are free. We also offer counseling, so behavioral health counseling to both service members and their family members. We have 6 therapists that are embedded in armories throughout the state of North Carolina, so going from Asheville over to Wilmington and pretty much anywhere in between. We are available for in-person counseling as well as telehealth. So if you're not near a location that we work out of, we can still see you. And this is free therapy. I don't know how many people have experienced the cost of therapy in the civilian world, but it can get expensive. So this is a really important resource. All of our therapists are trained in some kind of evidence-based treatment for trauma, but it doesn't have to be trauma. It can be anything from anxiety, adjusting to this reintegration process, or it can be communication and working on marriage issues. So really just a wide variety of things that we can help you work through. The third thing that we do here at IBHS is we monitor a statewide crisis line. So our number, it's on the slide in multiple places, but please write this down for me. It is 855-322-3848. And if you call this number on any day, at any time, 24/7, there is a licensed therapist that will be returning a call to you within a couple moments after leaving a voicemail on our line. And we can help with, maybe you just need a moment to work through something. Or maybe you are concerned because you are with someone who is actively suicidal or homicidal and you need some direction. That is really what we're here for, is to help. Keep in mind, again, that all of these services are free, they're voluntary, and they're also confidential. This is a big thing that I hear a lot with service members. I wish I would have done this sooner, but I was worried about it impacting my career or getting back to command. So that's one thing I really like to hit on, because we are not the National Guard behavioral health that is determining readiness. We are the folks that are working on wellness. So again, our services are free, they're confidential, and also keep in mind they're available to the service member and family members as well. So if you think that you would like to get connected either to the case management, to counseling, to both, or you're in need of some immediate assistance, all you have to do is call our number. And just so you kind of understand what happens, it'll prompt you to leave a voicemail when you call that number. And within a couple moments after leaving your name and number on that voicemail, one of our clinicians will be calling you back directly. So definitely keep your phone near you once you leave that voicemail. So please, please, please write this number down. I can't stress enough how, even though you might not think that you'll ever need this number, you never know when you're going to be in a situation where someone else is struggling, and you can be there to kind of give them this number and get them the help that they need. That is all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for everything that you've done. Welcome home. And if you have any questions about today's presentation, just feel free to call that number. Questions are welcome as well. Thanks so much.
Good morning, everyone. My name's Brandon Williams, and I'm the Humana liaison for out of Camp Lejeune, covering Raleigh, Durham, Wilmington, most of the East Coast region. Next slide, please. So what is Tricare? Tricare, basically, when you were active duty, you had Tricare Prime, eligible for any of the care through the military treatment facilities, and your family members were covered as well. Next slide, please. So there's two regions for Tricare. There's Humana Military, which covers the East region. Then there's United Health Net Federal Services, which covers the West region. The important takeaway from this slide is as you travel, you're still covered by Tricare. You just need to contact your the East region and let them know you're moving to the West region or you're traveling in the West region, and you'll continue to get care and won't have to pay out of pocket. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So the important thing about Tricare is that it gets its information from DEERS. So keeping your DEERS information up to date is critical. Making sure you have your updated addresses, making sure your statuses are updated, making sure your family members are updated as well. And this will play into Tricare Young Adult, Tricare, other Tricare programs that we offer. Next slide, please. So as you know, the coverage life cycle, you have your inactive status, you go to your pre-activation, which you then become early eligibility for your active duty benefits. When you go active, you get your active duty benefits, and then you have your deactivation process, which then leads into TAMP and then the continued healthcare benefit program. Next slide, please. So TAMP applies when you come off of your active duty orders. You have up until 180 days afterwards of coverage, premium coverage. So basically the Transitional Assistant Management Program, it provides 180 days of premium free transitional health care. So this is huge for y'all because it is free. But you do have to enroll. And so you can enroll in Tricare Prime, Tricare Select, and even overseas programs if that's what you choose to do. So Tricare Prime is just what y'all are used to with the while on the active duty side of the house. You can go to your military treatment facilities, use their pharmacies, and continue to get care. You have a primary care manager, and that's who all your care is routed through. Tricare Select, y'all have more knowledge of than the active duty members that I deal with, just because you can choose your providers and you understand how that works. Next slide, please. So getting care, you have that PCM, and the PCM coordinates all of your specialty care through Prime. So basically a phone call, you let your PCM knows what's going on and that you need a referral for something. Normally they'll bring you in, evaluate you, and if they agree you need specialty care, they'll put in that referral, and then you'll be covered to get care outside of the military treatment facility or your primary care manager office. Next slide, please. So with line of duty, TAMP does not cover LOD care. So you get your LOD, you get injured, you're on active duty, it gets investigated, it gets proven that you were injured while on active duty and it's related. And you get care for that specific injury as if it was active duty. So you will not have to pay for the care for, say it's your right knee, you won't have to pay for that care. It gets treated, it gets taken care of, nothing out of pocket on your end. The big thing is if you go in for right knee and then you start complaining about the right shoulder is not covered under that LOD. That would have to be a separate LOD. So just knowing that TAMP does not cover LODs and that you need to ensure it's a thorough process and is carried through, and if founded, you do reserve the right to care for that. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Pharmacy options, you all have the option to use a military pharmacy. You go in and it's free at no cost to you. Tricare Pharmacy home delivery. This is personally how I get my medication. You submit it in through Express Scripts and they refill your meds. You can get up to a 90-day supply. You can use a Tricare retail network pharmacy. These are like your CVS's and Walgreens. One thing I would like to point out is Walmart is no longer a Tricare retail network pharmacy. So you will be paying more out of pocket if you go to Walmart. Using CVS and Walgreens is where they're in network and they're Tricare, and you'll be paying less for those prescriptions. Next slide, please. So for the Tricare dental program, this is done through Benefeds. You can look them up at benefeds.com, and you can also look at the TDP on the tricare.mil. It's just a voluntary dental program, and it's administered through United Concordia, and the premium depends on the sponsor status. So if you're active duty, those are what you will be paying for the individual and family, and then so on and so forth. Next slide, please. Right here, the top left corner beside the E where it says Tricare East Region, this is the number that you will need if you are traveling or you have any questions specific for care and you're not able to get a hold of your PCM. You contact them and they will be able to track down any referrals, make sure that you're covered while traveling, and making sure that you're taken care of. If you have any questions, Staff Sergeant Hill has my contact information. I'm available pretty much 24/7 and am willing to email, call, do whatever you need to be done to make sure that your care is taken care of. Thank y'all for your service and welcome home.
I do not believe that we have a VA rep on the call with us, but if you want to look at any of these PowerPoints, they are on the yellowribbon.mil site, and all the handouts that the presenters talked about are also linked on the Yellow Ribbon site. Next, we're going to go to Ms. Johnson for Address Your Stress.
All right. A lot of good information out there, and hopefully you took that information down. Like Sergeant Hill said, I highly encourage you to download and print out the handouts or the slides that has all this information on it. Because again, you may not need this information right now. You never know when you're going to need this information, or if you're in a leadership position, you never know when a soldier would need the information that you can pass on, at least where what resource provider they need to go to. All right, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and go into Address Your Stress. Make sure there. All right. So how many of you do not have any stress at all in your life? If you can just hit me on the chat here. And I see on the chat here that you've been checking in. You've been doing a good job with that, but I think that you need to check in with every class now. So you need to check in with Address Your Stress and the other two that follow me. It looks like that's what they need. So you can start checking in again. And if you would, if anybody out there has no stress, I would like your name and I would like to know what your secret is. Some of you said you're always stressed. We'll hit on that because a little stress is good. A lot of stress is not so good. So these are some things that I want you to think about as we go through the class here. What causes stress in your life? What makes you feel off balance? How do you know you're stressed? And what do you do to cope or deal with stress? Kind of think about that. And we're going to answer these questions as we go along in class today. So before we get into answering that question, I think for everybody to be on an even playing field, we need to, excuse me, we need to, define what stress is. So if any of you want to kind of put what you think stress is on the chat, I know that's kind of hard. A lot of times when I do this in person, people will say, you know, when I ask what is stress, people will raise their hand. It's like, oh, it's my mother-in-law. Oh, it's my father-in-law, or it's my children. And I have to remind them that is, I ask what is stress, not who is stress. So keep that in mind as we go through class today. So stress it's a psychological, it's a physical and emotional response that you have when your life challenges are greater than your ability to handle them. So a lot of us have tools in our personal toolbox that we can handle a lot of things. But as an example, when COVID strikes, it's never struck before. We've never had that experience. So we might not have the tools in our toolbox to handle or deal with COVID. So it created a lot of stress on us at that time. And it still continues to be rampant in our environment, in our daily life. So there continues to be stress on people now. Some people aren't as stressed as others about it. And so again, you can't compare yourself to other people, but that's an example of your inability to handle that because I know a lot of us have experience and we've been in this world a long time and have been in different situations that we can handle a lot of stress, but that's a new stress. COVID's a new stress that none of us had to deal with, or not a stress, but a challenge that a lot of us had to deal with that caused stress in our life. So that's what stress is: psychological and physical and emotional response that we have to something that we can't handle or don't have the life tools to handle. It doesn't mean we can't acquire the life tools. It just means that at that point in time when it hits us, we can't handle it. And so a stressor is the real or perceived demands that interrupt our balance. Again, the stressors are the real or perceived demands that disrupt our balance. Excuse me, I'm sorry. So really, it's the stressors that cause our stress, because it's those real or perceived demands that disrupt our balance that causes our stress. All right, keep that in mind, the real or perceived, because we're going to take a look at that real and perceived in a few minutes. Okay, so back to that first question that I popped up when we started class. What is causing stress in your life? You can put it in your chat, in the chat if you want. COVID, of course, yeah, it's hitting everybody. Just the feeling of being overwhelmed, especially coming back off a deployment. There's so many different changes and experiences and challenge that we have that we talked about in the renegotiating normal, that compounded with the COVID and other things that is in life right now. So there's a lot of things causing stress. Someone said working in a different city. Some of you earlier that said that you had different jobs coming back to, or one instance you came back to your old job, but you had new coworkers. All of that will cause some type of stress in your life. Now, it could be short-term, it could be long-term, and some of it could be real and some of it could be perceived. So with that being said, excuse me. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sure a lot of you out there have the sniffles and the coughs also, but it's not good to have when you're trying to present a class. So the perception and reality is sometimes a little bit different. And what we perceive is not really reality, as you can see in this cartoon here. And sometimes it can be the opposite. If you put the little skinny guy in the mirror and the big guy outside the mirror, sometimes the big guy perceives himself to be the skinny guy. So it can go both ways. A lot of times we downplay our own strengths, and a lot, a lot of people are very humble and do that. And some people are the opposite. They downplay their weaknesses and just look at their strengths. So let's look at what perception in reality looks like when it comes to real life situations. So here we have, my boss wants this report completed tomorrow. There's no way that I can do it. So in the chat box, do you think that is a perceived reality and or a real reality? Is it, stress, is it real or is it perceived? Any takers there? It is a real stressor because time, they don't have time. You can't do anything with time. We only have 24 hours, do we not, to work with? And if they don't have the time to complete the report because there's too much information, then it is a real. The first one is a real. I know the second example is up, but the first one is a real stress. It's not perceived, it's real. So let's look at this second one. I don't think my mother-in-law likes me. Okay, is that perceived or real? And some of you have already got that down, that it is perceived. Because it's just this perception that your mother-in-law doesn't like you. Now, you might have some facts behind it. Some people say, yes, I've had in class, some people say, yes, I really know my mother-in-law doesn't like me. But in general, that would be a perceived stress because we just might think that they don't like. Okay. And I just want to let you know, Josh, that I do have a cough drop in my mouth. So I'm just trying not to have it come in, so I can't talk, but I do have a cough drop. Okay, so the third one here, there is an official letter from the bank. What am I going to do? I must have overdrawn my checking account. Do you think that's real or perceived on the third one, dealing with the checking account? So you got a letter from the bank. You haven't even opened it yet. They haven't even opened it yet, and they think, oh my gosh, my account's overdrawn. Do you think that's perceived or real? Those of you that said perceived is correct. You'll notice that if they're perceived, that they turn to blue if they're perceived or not. Okay. So again, like I said, they got a letter from the bank. They haven't even opened it. They already are stressing out because they think their checking account is overdrawn. Nowadays, you can go online and almost get your instant balance. So a lot of people check it every day, 2 or 3 times a day with different apps that we have now. Back in the old days, when you got a letter from the bank, it wasn't necessarily a good thing. But just because it's from the bank, they might want to be offering you a loan, saying something else, a new policy, a new procedure. So a lot of times when it comes to these perceived and real stressors, that we bring the stress onto ourselves because of the perception or because of the situation that's happening. Okay, and we have to start recognizing those stressful thoughts that we have in ourselves. So a lot of times that letter is a good example of overthinking, that they overthink. They haven't even opened the letter yet, and they've already built in their mind. We always get our mind spinning, and it's like, oh my gosh, my bank's overdrawn. I've already paid these many bills. I'm going to have all these overdraft charges, and on and on and on, when they haven't even opened the darn letter yet. Okay. So, and that's part of the jumping to conclusions also. So all of these different stressful thoughts that we have that are up here on the screen, a lot of times we need to recognize that we're doing that in our mind, because our mind can work a million miles an hour, can it not? We can get our self all spun up, wrapped around the axle before we even know what's going on. So once you recognize these stressful thoughts that you have, you can stop your stress before it even stops. You just have to stop and say, hey, okay, I don't have all the facts. I'm not going to get myself spun up. Let's get more information. It's not time to stress out yet. Let's work and go from there. So it's a lot of times that stress is brought upon ourselves. I have a sister like that everything is, she spins things up clear to New York and back before she even has the information. All right. So now that we know what stress looks like, we know that stress can be perceived or real, and I'm not downplaying the stress that's real, and we'll talk about that. Let's talk about stress being good or bad. Do you think stress is good or bad? You can put in the chat there if you think it's good or bad, or both. We'll look at both situations. So if those of you that think stress is good, in the chat, why do you think stress is good? A lot of people says it depends on how you handle it. That's right. How about let's just take your deployment for example. I'm not sure what your mission of your deployment was, but a lot of times when you're on deployment, that you have to be at a certain level of alertness. Do you not have to be? And so so you're a little bit stressed, right? That can be good stress because it keeps you alert. It keeps your mind where it's supposed to be and focused. Now, when it, so that's one instance. A lot of you said that you were going back to school, that you started classes. I'm getting myself in trouble here with my mouse. So a lot of you in the chat said earlier that you have started classes. How about when you have to write a paper or have a test coming up? Do you not get a little stress? So that stress makes you maybe study better, does it not? When you have a test or a paper coming up. Another person here says that it can provide motivation. Stress can. It's a great example for good stress. It provides that motivation. A lot of you say that stress can be good and bad, and that's true, because any of those good stress examples that we talked about can become bad when they last a prolonged period of time. Any stress that is over a long period of time, a month, 2 months, sometimes years, if it's not taken care of, it's called acute stress. And that's when stress becomes bad. And you have to recognize that stress has become to where it's bad. It's become bad, and it is has a lot of wear and tear on your body. Remember, in the definition of stress, it's psychological, it's physical, and it's emotional. So when you have acute stress or stress that you have a stressor that is over a long period of time, that does a lot of damage to your body, to your mind, and to your thought process. So for those of you that have stress, and it's called exactly acute stress or chronic stress, those of you that have stress in your life, how do you know you have stress? What happens maybe to your body or to your mind or to your emotions when you experience stress? Can you give me some examples? What about okay, so Thomas Jager, you said, I thought acute stress was when I develops quickly but doesn't last long. You're probably right. I probably have my terminology incorrect. due to the fact that I have, I'm on some medication, just NyQuil. But the chronic stress is when it lasts over a long time. And also, another one says that, another individual says that his stress is cute because it's his wife. So very clever, very clever. Glad you guys are following along with me today. So someone says, how do they know they're stressed? They get high blood pressure. A lot of people, their stress turns into anger. Some people say they start drinking when they get, and that's a whole nother class. But a lot of people, when they get stressed, they do turn to alcohol, drugs, or some other non-beneficial treatments that they self-medicate. Now, again, that could be good or bad with the drinking whenever it gets to the bad, is into the extreme. But we're not going to go into that right now. But, you know, just make sure that you monitor yourself and you know when it's becoming bad. A lot of people say anxiety, that they get anxious, get a short temper. A lot of people can't remember things when they get angry, that their mind just goes blank. How many people of your muscles get really tense, or even like I have here, that your fists get all, you know, you just automatically fists fall up, or that your shoulders get really tense. A lot of people carry their stress in their shoulders and in their neck. A lot of people get, you know, if you have chronic stress, you can start losing your hair. You can stop eating. You can start eating more. A lot of people stress eat. As you can see here, that there's a lot of things that goes on within your body, your mind, and your emotions and your behavior when stress is when your body's under stress, and your body's trying to tell you that something's going on in your life that you need to be aware of. A lot of these same effects come with anger, come with other things, but these have to deal with stress. And a lot of, someone says that they get sweaty. And again, all of those are great answers on how you know, and that you know these things because you've listened to your body, that something's going on, that you're stressed. So you have to step back and you have to analyze as to what's causing stress in your life. And I think you answered that question in the first class with just getting new jobs, the environment of COVID, losing loved ones and friends that over the course of the year and of COVID, losing those loved ones, gaining new farm animals, just situational things that have happened in your life have caused stress. Now that stress may only last a few days or a few weeks until you get a handle on it. But again, you need to be aware of that. You need to be conscious of what's going on in your life. And if you don't have the tools in your toolbox to handle it, like I mentioned earlier, is that all of those resource providers that you just had, there's some of them, multiple, that can help you with dealing with stress. Either taking a class, talking to someone, whatever it is, there's help out there. So what do you do for stress relief? When you know you're stressed, do you have any techniques that help you de-stress? As you can see, there's a list up here, and some of those might be good for some of you, and some might be not so good for you. But does anybody have an example what helps them the most when it comes to stress? Work out. That's right. Some people just need that physical activity to work out, be it running, be it lifting weights, be it going to a class, whatever your definition of working out is, that those endorphins in your body, those good endorphins from working out, can help you reduce your stress level. It clears your mind. It clears your thought process. How many people journal? Does anybody journal about their stress and worry, that they just write it down on paper, get it out there? Okay. For me, journaling would cause stress because I hate to journal when anybody says, well, I want you to journal on whatever it is. That totally stresses me out. So you have to remember, some things on this list are not you. You have to know you and what is going to work for you to de-stress you and not add more stress. A lot of people have put down that I like to talk to family and friends, go for a run. Here's a good one. Do something good for someone else. A lot of times, when we're in a stress situation, we're so focused on ourselves that if we can look around and help somebody else out and do good for somebody else, that it will lighten our load and lighten our stress. But again, you have to know yourself. Start listening to your body when you're in a stressful situation. What's it telling you? Is your heart rate going up? Are you starting to sweat? Are your muscles tense? For a long period of time? Is your hair coming out? All of that that you need to use or find some kind of stress busting activity that you can help your body, help yourself, and get yourself out of that situation. Now, again, there's times when we don't have those resources for ourselves, right? That we don't know how to handle that. It's something new that you've never had to handle before. And we have to remember, again, that there is help out there. Help is a good four-letter word, not a bad four-letter word. I can't stress that enough. That there is help out there. There's all kinds of resources. You've heard about them. I don't want to go on and on, but I'm telling you that there is no reason that you should go into have prolonged stress or be in a chronic stress situation. All right. So help is a good thing. I'm going to show you a video that kind of puts it all in perspective, that wraps things up in a nice little bow.
Stress is part of life, and it's not always a bad part of life. Most of us enjoy good stress in small doses, like roller coasters, watching sports, or even scary movies. That's the kind of stress that keeps us young and on our toes. Then there's bad stress, or worse, chronic stress. Negative stress isn't just in your head. It can affect us both mentally and physically. Stress hormones in the body for extended periods of time can physically age our cells. So when you're stressed at work or home, your cells look and act older, making you look older and even impacting your immune system. Not only does it add years to your appearance, it can also affect your memory, making brain cells shrink permanently. Even short-term stress can make it hard for you to remember simple things. The good news is you can manage stress now to prevent more damage to your body and mind tomorrow. Stress management is a skill that can be learned. Check out Blue KC's Tips to Manage Stress video for ways to beat stress for a longer, healthier, and happier life.
All right. Well, that was a cute little video. I like showing that video because it does wrap up everything in a nice little package, that it talks about everything that we've talked about, that you need to be aware of your body, that you know of what's stressing you out. It's telling you something. It talked about how stress affects your life, that it can actually shrink our brain, and that it can affect our memory. It can affect a lot of things, and that over a long period of time, it can really do damage to our bodies. And so just keep that in mind. And so I know it's a little hard when we don't have the give and take of questions and all of that when it's live, but you guys did great on your chat as to answering my questions. And so I just want to recap that this is the things that we've talked about, and to remember, is this what is causing stress in your life? Is that perceived stress or is it real stress? And is it making you feel off balance? Remember those signs of how you know you're stressed. There might be some new signs out there also. I know that when I'm very, very stressed, my my hands start to break out and I get little bumps on them. And it took me a while to figure out what was going on with them. I never went to the doctor, but I started to correlate. And it was when my husband was deployed the last time in Iraq, and I kept getting this rash on my fingers because at that point in time, he was deployed. We had a son that was a senior in high school and a daughter that was a freshman in high school. And our son was getting recruited to play football, college football. And so I had to go on the recruitment trips with him and meet the coaches and all of that, which was fine with me. I don't know, I'm getting to know more about football, but it was just a stressful situation because I had my kids to take care of. I'd had a job, I had a home business, and I was the president of the Booster Club and in charge of all of the high school snack bars and stuff. So I had a lot going on in my life, and I started, these weird things started happening to my body, and I finally figured out that I had too much going on in my life. So I eventually started cutting things out. I stopped my home business. I stopped, I stepped down from the Booster Club. There was a lot of things that I had to stop doing because I had to take care of myself so that I could take care of my children. And that's a lot of that we forget, that you as parents, when you get stressed out, that your children can feel your stress and know that you're stressed. So that trickles down into our family members, that if you're stressed, then your children are going to feel it. And that may cause stress in their life also. And they're, depending on their ages, they might not know what's going on, but they just know that mom or dad are frustrated or something's happening, that they're off balance. So keep that in mind, that you have to take care of yourself as a parent so that you can take care of your children. And you've probably heard this many times, but that's why when you're in an airplane and during the briefing, when they say before you take off, if we lose cabin pressure, that the oxygen's going to come down. And so you're supposed to put your oxygen mask on yourself first and get that taken care of before you administer help to anyone else, be it your child or anybody that you're sitting by that needs help. Because you have to, in order to take care of others, you have to take care of yourself. So if you're unhealthy and you can't do that. So that's just a reminder that when you feel that stress in your life, that if you don't have a way to cope or deal with stress, that you come up with something that works for you, either work out, either all of those different ways that we talked about, how you can deal with stress in your life. And so with that, if you don't have any other questions, I would just like to thank you for your time. I kind of bumbling with my words here because I'm ready to cough and I don't want to do it. But thank you for your time. Welcome home. Thank you for your service, if you're a service member or a family member. Enjoy the snow, but stay out of it. And I will turn this back over to the Yellow Ribbon staff and continue to have a great rest of the day. Take notes and take care of yourself. God bless.
All right, you guys can take like a 5-minute break. I am trying to get the finance person to call in. Okay, we now have Ms. Bullock on the line with us. She's able to do our finance brief.
Good morning, everybody. Hopefully this snowy winter morning finds you well. My name is Sandy Bullock. I'm a financial advisor. I work with First Command. We work primarily with military to help them secure and set up their financial future. Hopefully, there's something of value in this that you guys will hear and you'll want to learn some more. Keep in mind that if you're wanting to learn more about preparing your family and yourself for a more financially secure future, my number is 360-628-6697. Again, that's 360-628-6697. I'll try to remember to put that in the chat so that you guys have that information. If there's any questions that you have, you can reach me through that phone number and via text as well. But let me get started here. Okay, so the Thrift Savings Plan, that's the TSP. Most of you guys are familiar with that phrase and what that entails. Okay, so it's basically the military's 401k. Now there's two basic types, and you'll see here where it says traditional and Roth. Those are the two types of TSP that you're able to have. All right, the traditional, it comes out before your taxes are taken out. So if you get $100 a month, the TSP is taken out from that amount first, as opposed to Roth, it's taken out after your taxes have already been taken out. The benefit to that is if you have money going into your 401k pre-taxed, you get a tax benefit. So when you file your taxes at the end of the year, those dollars don't count towards your taxable income. They've come out before that, okay? Or as opposed to the Roth, the dollars that you put into that investment or your retirement program have already been taxed. So they are slotted then to grow tax-free. And that means all of the earnings that grow in that Roth account are also tax-free. Okay. So when you get to be retirement age and you want to withdraw those dollars, you will not owe any federal tax on it and they will not count towards your taxable income. Whereas a traditional account, it will. So if you end up amassing $50,000 to $100,000 in traditional retirement money, when you go to withdraw those dollars in retirement, whatever tax bracket you are subject to at that time is what will be charged for federal tax, okay, as well as your state tax. All right, so this is the next point underneath that. It says your earnings are compounded on a tax deferred basis. Both traditional and Roth, they grow not paying tax on them. The difference is like I said, the traditional, it is tax deferred. You don't pay tax on anything until you withdraw it. The Roth, it is tax free. So the earnings are compounded after tax basis. It doesn't matter. Your withdrawals are not ever taxed, okay? Now, the traditional, Your transfers are allowed from eligible employer plans. So a lot of times if you're going from a military technician position to full-time National Guard or Reserve or something like that, or vice versa, your TSP generally can be rolled into the other TSP account. Whether that is the best position to do for you depends on your risk tolerance and what your family needs the dollars for and things like that. So sometimes it might be more advantageous to use those dollars and put them into some other investment account where it might have an opportunity to earn more. But that's an individual decision. And usually a financial advisor is there to help you decide if that's best for you and your family. For the Roths, you're allowed to do the same thing, but it also includes your 403B plans and your 457 plans. Those are usually with hospitals or state-run programs like your police officers, jail, penitentiary workers, those types of things. So the next point it says here is your transfers out are allowed to eligible employer plans, traditional IRAs and Roth IRAs. They must pay taxes on the pre-taxed amount. Okay, so basically you're able to pull that money out and you can do it to other eligible employer plans. So when you leave a position, TSP, if the employer has a plan that is similar to it and they will accept your TSP, sometimes they'll allow that to happen. And the same for the Roth. One of the things that's required minimum distributions, what we call RMDs, those are actually very, very important. Okay. Now, the CARES Act that was passed a few years ago changed some of the rules with this, but traditional accounts require you to have RMDs taken, just like Roth accounts do. Your Roth 401ks, which a TSP falls under those guidelines, require minimum distributions. That means at the age of 72, you will be required, okay, the year after, it's usually April 1st, after the year that you turn 72, you will be required to pull out whatever your minimum distribution is. That's determined on a scale and a slide that, I mean, if you wanted to, I can get with you to help you determine what that is. But basically, if you do not withdraw your minimum distribution, Uncle Sam will help you. They will take 50% of it for you. Okay, so it's very important that you're aware of what your minimum distributions are and when that you are required to take them. All right, how you avoid that is you can move or roll over, which is a non-taxable event. You roll over your 401k into the like-minded vehicle called the IRA, individual retirement account. So traditional 401ks get rolled into traditional IRA accounts. Roth 401ks get rolled over into Roth IRA accounts. Now the traditional ones still have the required minimum distributions. But when you roll a Roth 401k, or in this case, a Roth TSP plan into a Roth IRA, okay, you no longer have required minimum distributions. Okay, so some of those are advantageous because hopefully we've built up an investment portfolio well enough that we are going to be so well off that we don't have to take our required minimum distributions. The last thing you want is to have to pull money out and it be taxed, and you didn't want to have to pull that money out anyway. But if you don't, Uncle Sam's going to take 50% of it. We don't want to be in that position. Okay. So a lot of times with a 401k, your company will offer to match, and that's that next bullet right down there underneath the required distributions. You'll see it says, excuse me, matching funds are pre-taxed, okay, and they go into a traditional account. Be aware here, when you're in the military, you have two different retirement accounts or two different, usually retirement systems. Most people are either on the traditional system or choice. Others may have chosen to be on the BRS, which is the blended retirement. If you came into the military and signed up after January 1st, 2018, you are automatically on the blended retirement, okay? The difference between those two is that the blended, the TSP contributions that you make are matched up to 5%. Keep in mind, it does not matter if it's with the military or any other company. Any matched contributions that your employer will make are always going to be traditional dollars. So if you're putting money into a Roth account and your employer is matching it, your 5% that you're putting in is tax free, right? Because you put it in after tax dollars, so it grows tax free. But if your employer is matching 5%, okay, it's going to grow tax deferred, meaning when you retire or you finish employment there, you're going to have two buckets. One is going to be Roth dollars and one will be traditional. The traditional dollars, you're going to want to arrange or plan to have those paid tax on so that they can be moved to the Roth bucket. Okay, generally speaking, that's usually the best course of action. Not always. Again, a financial advisor can help determine and manipulate the dollars with you to find out if that's the best course of action for you and your family. But usually speaking, that's a lot of times the best thing. So we want to make sure that you have, at least my opinion is, my goal for a lot of my clients is to help them have as much in the non-taxed bucket as possible. We don't know what the future tax laws are going to be, so I would just as soon plan to not have to pay tax. All right. So the blended retirement, you are able to, all those matched dollars that come in are traditional dollars. Okay. So when you are working with the TSP, you have 5 funds, technically 6 if you count the life cycle, okay? But you have your G, F, C, S, and I fund, okay? Each one of those have a different risk tolerance, okay? But, and again, this is not necessarily a recommendation, but generally speaking, a lot of people benefit more being in a life cycle fund, depending on when your plan for retirement is, just because that life cycle fund is automatically rebalanced and it has all 5 of the funds in it. I won't go into detail and in the weeds with that, but you usually get more bang for your buck in the life cycle fund than you do individually putting money into one of the 5 offered funds. So again, if that's something that you want to learn more about, get in touch with me and I'm more than happy to go over that with you one-on-one and see if that's a benefit for you and your family. If you'll move down, Brian, to the next slide. Thank you. Okay, so FERS employees and the people who are under the blended. Okay, right here, I'll tell you, after 60 days of service, the employing federal agency of FERS participants and uniformed service members will begin making agency automatic contributions. So you can put money into it. All this is saying is you got to be there for 2 months before the employer starts putting matching dollars in. You also have a vested period, okay? Vested means that whatever you've put in, the employer, you know, whatever match dollars has been put in for you from your employer, okay, you don't get those dollars until you've met the vesting period. So if your vesting period with your employer is 3 years and you quit or retire or, you know, finish service with them at 2 years and 9 months, and you put in 5,000 and they put in 5,000, you're walking away with only 5,000. Okay, because you didn't meet the vested period. You don't get the dollars that the company put in for you. So the vesting period is something you want to be aware of. With the military, it's 2 years. You have to have been with the military for 2 years at least to be able to qualify to get any matched dollars when you leave, to get the matched dollars that the military put into your TSP. All right, so that's something that you need to be aware of. And here I'll tell you, after 2 years of service, usually government employees, the FERS and or the military, other employers have a different vesting period. Some of them are 2 years, some 3, some 5. I haven't seen any too much past 5, but generally there is a vesting period there. What this last bullet there, it says after 2 years of service, it tells you how much is contributed or how much is matched. What that means is that if you're putting in 5%, the first 3% of that 5%, the military is matching dollar for dollar. On percentages 4 and 5 that you put in, the military will put in half of what you put in. So if your 1%, you know, amount is $30, the military is going to put 15 in. So essentially you put in 5%, the military will match it 4%. That's basically how it breaks down to. Every employer is a little bit different. I just got off a call just a little bit ago with a person whose their employer actually matches them 10% dollar for dollar. So it is out there, but most employers don't quite go up that high. Okay. Now, the withdrawal period right here. All right. With passing of the TSP Modernization Act, the withdrawal options available to TSP participants were substantially expanded. Okay. You can do partial withdrawals. Okay. You can take up to 4 age-based in-service withdrawals per calendar year. There is no limit to the number of partial withdrawals that you can take after separating from your federal service, but withdrawals cannot be made any more frequently than 30 days. This is for both the Roth and traditional, okay? But keep in mind, when you're making the withdrawals, you'll have the option of specifying whether they come only from your Roth or your traditional balance. That's a big difference, because if you're taking it out of traditional, remember, you are going to have that accounted as taxable income, and you will be taxed accordingly. All right. And that can be made from, the pro rata basis, which is the percentages equal to the amounts that you put in. All right. There is a deadline. There is no requirement that you fully withdraw your funds from the TSP at any age, so you can leave it there if you wanted to. All right. But you're required to begin making the IRS RMDs as required minimum distributions by beginning the year after you turn 72. And we kind of covered that. That's April 1st of the following year after you've turned 72. All right. Keep in mind, if you leave your money in the TSP, there's nothing wrong with that, but it is only invested in 5 funds. So depending on what your family's risk tolerance, what your goals are, it may be better served to have it invested elsewhere. Likewise, it could be very good to just leave it where it's at. So again, that's when a financial advisor can come in and they can help coach you and go over all your pros and cons. And depending on what your family's individual goals are and what you're wanting to use the money for and what it's needed for, we can help you decide if that's the best place to leave it. All right. So you can also receive distributions or payments, all right, from your DSP monthly, quarterly, or annually. Keep in mind, the TSP is essentially an annuity. It's your retirement. A retirement payment is an annuity. It's a type of annuity. So that's what that's referring to. All right. You can change the amount or the frequency. All right. And you can stop the payments at any time. So there's a lot there that is covered. If you have any other questions as far as the TSP, I can definitely go into that with you more in depth. If your specific unit wants to have more information, I'm more than happy to come out and do a more in-depth presentation on TSP for you guys. Brian, if you can go to the next slide for me for the blended retirement system. Thank you. So this we kind of touched on just a little bit ago. All right, but your blended retirement system, that is your 401k. All right, this is your TSP, this is your retirement. Keep in mind that when you're in the military, you have 2 different retirement plans. You have what we call a defined benefit plan. All right, a defined benefit plan is pretty much going to the wayside. There's not many of them left out there. Those are true pension plans. A true pension plan or a defined benefit plan essentially is you do not have to put a penny into it. You put in the time and you will earn a pension for your time. Okay, that is what a true pension is. Most people these days recognize pensions as being a 401k, a 457, a 403b. There's a couple other ones out there, but those are the main ones. The thing is those are called defined contribution plans. So they are a retirement plan, okay? And people put that name retirement and they swap it with pension, but it's not the true definition of what a pension is. But your 401k essentially is you putting money away for later down the line. So you're taking away from your income in the present to help pay for the income that you want to live on for the future. Hopefully, in addition to that, you have a pension or something else that's going to help offset your expenses later down the line, and you're not going to be relying completely on Social Security to do so. If you are like me and many of probably the majority of us that are here, our retirement age, full retirement age, is considered 67 years old. I don't know if you guys were in a room with me right now, I'm sure everybody's hand would be in the air saying that they wanted to work until they were 67. Me personally, I don't want to have to work until I'm 67. So that's why a financial plan is so valuable, is because you can help set yourself up to have the option of whether you want to work past whatever age it is that you're trying to go. Just keep in mind, whatever age that is, there's going to be sacrifices and plans along the way to make it happen. So you have a defined contribution plan. That's what a 401k, or in this case, a TSP is. Okay, so a defined contribution plan is you put in certain amount, and if you're really lucky, the employer will match a certain amount of what you've put in. All right. Keep in mind that this is much less expensive for the employers to do. They are offering you a retirement, but it doesn't cost them nearly as much. So if you're able to, you keep looking down on here. So the BRS, there's a lot that goes into that. I'm not going to go in that today, but I can, like I said, if you guys are interested in that, learning more about it, you can reach me. And I'm more than happy to go over that more one-on-one with you. And if your unit wants to know more about it, I can come in and do a presentation. But basically, your BRS is, you're able to have matched contributions. That's one of the biggest differences between it and the TSP. You'll look over here on the right where it says automatic matching TSP contributions. That one, that's kind of what it is going over. It says, you know, hey, if you put in 5%, the DOD will match 4%. Well, blended retirement has an extra 1% that's automatically put in whether you decide to do anything in the TSP or not. So you'll always have something in that TSP when you leave service. Okay, so essentially, if you put in 5%, the military is going to match you 5%. So there's essentially 10% being put in for you. Okay, so that can add up significantly. If you are active duty, National Guard, and receiving a full paycheck, that can be pretty significant. Even if you are not, and you're just the weekend warrior, National Guardsman, you know, and you do your time in the summer, that can add up over the years, because, you know, that along with the pension, a lot of times can really help supplement what your other retirement income hopefully is going to be. There are also your collecting availability, how you collect your retirement under the blended retirement system is way different than the traditional retirement system, the choice. So you have a couple different options, but if you are active duty National Guard, a lot of times you will benefit, at least on the collecting part, maybe a little more favorably than the choice TSP retirement. It doesn't always work out that way, but a lot of times it can. Again, I can go into that more one-on-one with you if that's something that you guys are more interested in. Brian, if you can go to the next slide. This is just telling you a little bit about First Command, and how we try to make a difference with the soldiers in our community. Again, if you guys are interested in learning more one-on-one, more in-depth, all of our services are complimentary for service members and GS employees. So you don't pay for the services of having a financial advisor. That's pretty beneficial for most people. So if you are interested in that, my number again is 360-628-6697. Again, that's 360-628-6697. My name is Sandy Bullock, and I look forward to hearing from you guys if you have any questions. Otherwise, I hope everyone has a great rest of their weekend. Enjoy the snow. It doesn't come here very often. Please be safe driving if you have to. And thank you very much for your service, Brian, and thank you very much for letting me be here and contributing to this virtual seminar.
Thank you, Ms. Bullock. Again, you can find this PowerPoint right there on the yellowribbon.mil site if you want to download it, and all the other PowerPoints you've seen today. Go ahead and take about a 5-minute break, and we're going to get resilience up. Thank you. It looks like we have Sergeant First Class Eckert on the call with us. Whenever you're ready.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the deployment cycle resilience section that we are on right now for the post one. If you could do the next slide, please. Okay, and do one more for me. All right, so what we're going to talk about a little bit today is reintegration. And if anytime there's any questions, just let me know and we'll keep going. We're going to try to get through these slides as painlessly as possible. I know that sometimes MRT training can be a little bit tedious with the slides, but we're going to try to get through this today. So next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Here we go. Okay, so I saw a blip on my screen and we're like a couple of slides down now. So, but we're just going to keep going. So our post-deployment reintegration. So what does it mean for you to successfully reintegrate into your lives after your deployment? Okay, it means you're going to manage your expectations, settling with new surroundings, adjusting to everyday roles, responsibilities, and routines, and adapting to changes and navigating through challenges in multiple domains. So reintegration is going to touch on every aspect of your life, your professional life, your personal life, your social, and your interpersonal life. Okay, next slide. So this is our training at Live for this. We're going to do part one, which is growth from deployment right now. So next slide. So the quote that we're looking at right now is experience is the best teacher of all things, and from Julius Caesar. And what that means is that what you've gone through in your deployment has taught you something, and hopefully that is a positive lesson that you can apply to your life, or even if it's something that negative happened, it can help you growing forward if something else similar to that happens. So go ahead and click next. Here we go. Growth equals experience plus reflection. All right. So going on to the next slide, there's deployment resilience AAR. So we can apply AARs to everything in our lives. And right now, the part that we're going to apply is sustain. Think of challenging events or situations that you handled well, like, for instance, with resilience. Oh, okay. What did you do to effectively navigate the situation and foster a resilient response? If I think of a challenging event or situation during their deployment that went well, okay, reflect on that. And the next part we're going to do is improve. Think of a situation or challenge you did not handle as well as you could have or would have liked to. In hindsight, what might you have done differently to respond more effectively to that situation? Okay, there should be a little chat bubble on this slide. Okay, what lessons will you carry forward to help enhance or maintain resilience through this reintegration phase? So what you may have learned on your deployment or getting ready for your deployment that's going to help you reintegrate back into your life now that you're home? Okay, next slide. Here's another thing you can think of, and that's growth, is what specific ways have you witnessed soldiers in your unit grow? How have you grown personally and professionally, and what specific ways did members of your circle of support grow? So that's something that we haven't touched on yet, but your circle of support is what it sounds like. It's your family, it's your friends, it's your unit members, it's people that are there that you can lean on, that can help you through challenging times and are there for you during those issues. Okay, next slide. Okay, growth, impact or reintegration. How might your personal growth and the growth experienced by others impact the reintegration experience? So strengths and skills gained from your deployment can help you face reintegration challenges. Newfound strengths, skills, and preferences can also present challenges. So for instance, maybe during your deployment, you got really into running and working out, right? Well, that can also be a challenge too, because now at your home, you can't be like, I'm going to take off for a while. You have to explain that, hey, I've got this new hobby and it's really good for me and I'm really excited to do it, but it's going to take time out of the day, so I need to start scheduling that time in there. And sometimes it may be difficult to understand for your folks at home why you're not sticking to the same schedule that you may have had before you left. Okay, so click next. Okay, reintegration requires everyone involved, you and your circle of support and your friends and your family, to adjust and adapt to changes when necessary. Growth takes time, and sometimes growth is best revealed when experienced in a test. Okay, so next slide. It's right here. I'm not seeing the next slide. I've had a couple of times where it's been lagging. Okay, there we go. All right, so part 2, post-deployment expectations. So the quote on here is, give me 6 hours to chop down a tree. Now it's been the first 4 sharpening acts. That's Abraham Lincoln. Okay, so that's saying basically prepping for things is going to be the main part of anything that you do. Okay, next slide. So normally this involves a lot of back and forth during the classes where the students answer things and we go from there. It doesn't look like that's possible, so we're going to have a couple of slides where we just read it and talk about it, and then we're going to keep going from there. So kick off the conversation. This means, what do you wish you had known about reintegration before you experienced it the first time or before you learned the hard way? So what do you wish that you had talked about with your unit or with any of your circle of support before you left that you wish you had known about what it would be like to come back home and slide back into your civilian lives? Okay, try to think about that. Like I said, normally this would be a discussion one, but we're just going to keep rolling with this. So next slide. Okay, realistic expectation number 1. Reintegration presents a challenge. So things and people, including yourself, will have changed. Dealing with changes can be a challenge, even if it's a positive change. So what this means is, for instance, during my deployment, what I felt like when I came home is that everything at home had kept going and I'd kind of stood still, right? So I came home and everybody had different routines, or even if they had the same routine, they had adapted so that I wasn't involved because obviously I wasn't there. So even though it was really good to see everybody functioning and moving on and everything was okay with that, it kind of felt like there wasn't a place for me, even though it was really good to see that everybody had been able to cope with things while I was gone because we planned for it. So it's kind of disorienting because it's like, okay, everything's going great, but where's my spot in that? Because my spot had been kind of moved over so that someone else could take care of it because I wasn't there. So that's one thing that may be a little bit off and unsettling when you get back, makes you feel a little bit off. Okay, but it's also a good thing because it means that everybody was taken care of while you were gone. Okay, next slide. Okay, one of the things to talk about in this is something called the deployment paradox. You have a thought of, I can't wait to be home, as in I miss home. This this sucks. It's hot. It's sandy. It's sometimes muddy. I just want to be home, right? I can't wait. Get through this. Get back to the house. But when you get home, you may think to yourself, once you've seen that everyone has adjusted and they're doing other stuff now, with their taking care of the gap that you may have left, you may think to yourself, I want to go back, right? deployments are a logical thing, right? You have specific parameters. You have to be a place. You have to be accountable. You have to do this. You have to keep up this equipment and that. So it sometimes just feels kind of, I don't want to say easier, but it feels more structured, and we all crave structure. So you'll get home and all of a sudden you're not in that deployment order. And this is especially present with the National Guard because active duty folks, they're almost immediately reintegrated back into the workforce with the active duty, right? It goes right back into the National Guard. Much as we hate to say it this way, it's kind of like we come home, we get off the bus after our demo, and we're like, okay, see you guys at our Yellerman, right? And then you don't see anybody. So it's kind of like jarring if there's a displacement, right? So your first thought maybe I want to go back to where it's structured, where I have the folks I have, where this intense period of my life that was every aspect every day is back there, right? So think to yourself, what might lead soldiers to want to return to that deployed environment? And it's that feeling of structure and that feeling of everything having a purpose, right? What are some things that you would think that would make you want to return to a deployment, okay? What is the impact of this paradox, the deployment paradox, that I can't wait to be home warring with the I want to go back? What is the impact of this paradox on a soldier's perception of a successful reintegration? So one of the things I've heard from folks is by thinking, I want to go back, even when they first get home, they feel kind of like they may have betrayed that home life, that circle of support, right? Because all they're thinking about is, I want to go back, when all they think about before is, I want to go home, and now suddenly they're home and they feel unsettled. Okay, so the impact of this paradox on a soldier's perception may be that they think, the reintegration back into their home life is not going well because all they're thinking is, I want to go back, or they're not immediately quickly absorbed back into what they're doing before they left, and everything's not perfect, right? So they may have that feeling. If you have that feeling, it may be that you're having the same situation. So if you could bring up, click next on the slide. There you go. The deployment paradox itself is a common challenge for returning soldiers. How you experience it, such as your particular emotions or reactions, will depend on how you choose to interpret the event. So just try to keep in your head, as to help with the deployment paradox, just try to keep in your head that, hey, it's not going to be perfectly easy every single time to get there and get this done. So just try to keep that in your head, that it's going to be a process. It won't immediately happen, and don't be dispirited if it doesn't immediately happen. Okay, next slide. Okay, the next thing we have is the reunion paradox. What might lead someone from your circle of support to experience the reunion paradox? What is the impact of a soldier's perception of a successful reintegration member of their circle of support is experiencing the paradox? You become aware that a circle of support members experience the deployment paradox. Be patient and empathetic and open lines of communication. Go ahead and hit next. Okay. All right, hit next again. Okay, what are some common challenges that soldiers might face during reintegration? All right. So interpersonal, you might have communication issues, some relational uncertainty, some reconnecting. Social, you may have a feeling of distance, your shift in roles, maybe discomfort in crowds. Personal, processing experiences, managing emotions and health. And professional, messages change, position change, employment change. So all these things may come up while you're trying to reintegrate. Your communication is different. You're not communicating through messages or old-fashioned letters or FaceTimes or anything like that. You're not communicating face-to-face. You may have some issues reconnecting when you're there 24/7 as opposed to those set-aside moments when you get to talk to that person. So your social, you may start feeling distant, right? Because you're outside of something that has been working the time you've been gone, right? You may have some discomfort in crowds. That really depends on the type of deployment you may have had. Some folks will have discomfort in crowds just simply because it's a lot of folks that are loud and moving in a group that are not military, right? It could be something as simple as that. As a crowd that doesn't have a purpose that you can surmise from just looking at them. Okay. Personal, you may have processing, experiencing issues, managing emotions, issues with their health, for instance, in employment. Quite a few of us, myself included, took that as an opportunity to really work on the physical part of ourselves. You know, now let's do on some of those first deployments, wasn't a lot of ways to entertain ourselves, so we all worked out and worked out a lot. But when you get home, there's so many other things to do, you may not immediately jump back in to working out like that. Like you don't have that driving reason or that ridiculous amount of boredom, let's be honest, that may have put it in your path when you were deployed. So your your physical health may start to deteriorate. It's not such a focus anymore. All right, so, and managing your emotions, it's easy to do that when you're able to manage them for a FaceTime call or manage them for a letter home or manage them for email or a video chat or something. But when you have to make sure that you're 24/7 working on that emotion, that can sometimes be an issue. Okay, and professional, mission change, position change, employment change. So you're coming home, you had this mission while you were overseas, which was whatever your job was at that time, right? Everybody's job is different in the military. When you get home, you don't have that set mission anymore. You don't have that FRAGO, you don't have that operational order that tells you exactly what you're doing at all times, right? So when you come back, your job's going to change. You don't do the same thing at home that you do deployed, right? Even if it's the same job title, it's not the same job description. There's different factors that happen when you're stateside versus when you're on deployment. Okay, next slide. So common challenges. Just think for a second, how will being aware of common reintegration challenges help prepare you to navigate them more effectively? Okay, next. Okay, you may feel less isolated and more connected to others through a shared experience. You may be less likely to overreact or compound the situation. You may be quicker to accept the situation and move towards a productive action. You may be able to prevent a challenge from happening or lessen the degree of impact. You may be able to increase situational awareness, provide better support to your battle buddies. So all this means that if you are of the things that could happen when you come back from a deployment, you can better prepare to meet those challenges. You can be more self-aware, you can be more aware of the things that are going on around, and better able to notice when something is maybe deteriorating, when one of your battle buddies is having issues, because you've sat down and you've thought about, well, these are the challenges that can happen when I come back, right? It could be now what I expected. Everybody at home has been taking care of things while I've been gone, so it's going to take a little bit of time to get in there, you know. So you're much better prepared to notice those things and also address them. Okay, next slide. All right, so the biggest thing to remember is reintegration is a process, not an event. You got a little Calvin and Hobbes cartoon there, and he's going, so it's weird, day by day, nothing seems to change, or pretty soon, everything's different, and that's a gradual adjustment, right? So adjustment will take time, effort, and perseverance. So when you first get home, you should, like, sometimes you feel like, hey, I should immediately be able to fall back into my life. Nothing's changed, right? Like, they're still doing the things that we were doing before I left. I should just be able to just pop back into it, right? And that's not true. You know, even if things are so close to when you left, the equation is different because you took yourself out of that equation for that time period. Excuse me, the Army took you out of that time equation for a time period, and now you're trying to add yourself back into it. So it's going to take some time, it's going to take some effort, it's going to take conversations with your circle of support. It's going to take, you know, keeping an eye out for those things that could make you feel bad about it, and working to make that better, right? So being resilient and knowing that it's not going to be an instant process. Okay, the time it takes to feel adjusted would depend on several factors, several of which are outside of your control. And you have control over the effort that you put in the process. So what is this saying is that there is no set time for you to be reintegrated back into your lives at home, right? It could take days, it could take weeks, it could take hours. It just depends on you, your circle support in the process. And nothing is wrong with how long it takes. it takes the time that it takes the time to take, right? That's a long circular way of saying it, but it's not a process that you can rush into, right? If you rush and try to cram things in there, it's like putting a square peg in a round hole. You may be able to get it in there, but it's not gonna fit like it should be comfortably fitting. So just remember that even if your reintegration process takes time, you control how much effort you put in the process. It's not an automatic thing. You're not going to just step back into your life and immediately everything's going to be okay. Or you're not going to be able to just step back in and it's all good, but you make no effort for it, right? You're going to have to pay attention and help the process. You're going to have to look around you and know, okay, this is what's going on here. I should address it this way, or this is how this is. I need to make sure that I'm comfortable with doing this, etc. Right? So you get what you give, right? That's the saying. You get what you get out of something. You get what you get out of something. Sorry, excuse me. The next slide. Reintegration is going to take some deliberate and consistent effort. What are some unfavorable consequences if you neglect to put forth consistent effort? Okay, next. All right. So here's some answers. Like I said, normally these are give and take slides, but we're just going to read them and keep pushing through since we're on this platform. All right. So small challenges can become larger problems, right? You let something just go that's an issue, then it could get bigger over time because you don't address it. You don't address it, you show it away and don't address it. All of a sudden, it's this big, huge problem, right? Okay, your energy and ability to cope with minor stressors is compromised, okay? And other areas of your life can be affected. So let's use an example for this. So let's use something that's not to do with the reintegration thing. Let's just use something in general, right? So in the picture here, we have somebody doing the ACFT. So we can apply this to this. What's a small challenge that can become a larger problem? Well, if you're somebody who worked out all the time and you're ready for the ACFT and you're good to go and you can do it without worrying about it, you say, hey, one day, hey, you know what, I'm going to take a day off. And a day off is not a big issue, right? Then you're going to say, I'm going to take a week off. And so on and so forth. So all of a sudden you get to an ACFT test or an ACFT and you haven't worked out that way. That's an example of a small challenge become a larger problem. One day you're just not motivated to work out. But if you keep that up, by the time it gets to be the bigger problem, it's going to have a huge impact on you, right? You're going to fail the ACFT. You're not going to be able to do that. You may hurt yourself, right? So it's a snowballing, right? It goes from really tiny and snowballs into this bigger issue. Okay. Much like physical readiness, maintaining your mental readiness requires deliberate and consistent effort. Resilience is an essential component of mental readiness, right? So it's not just your body that you have to take care of, that you have to work out, it's your mind as well. Okay, so mind and body, the two big things. Next slide. Realistic expectation number 3. Reintegration is an opportunity for growth. Growth is not automatic. Growth happens when you approach your challenges rather than avoid them. And growth requires you to take productive action. Okay, next slide. Realistic expectation number 4. Reintegration is unique to each person, each family unit, and each deployment. Comparing your experience to a past experience or someone else's experience can do more harm than good. So my first deployment was a completely different reintegration experience than my second deployment, right? My first deployment, I was single and I had just gone over there and the only thing I was worried about home was my dog that my parents were taking care of. And it was my first deployment. I had no idea what to expect. You know, you see things, you hear things, you go through your training, but it wasn't like that at all, right? So I was a rebuild mission. It wasn't anything like my second mission, which was a whole new engineer concept, right? I was doing something completely different in a different country, different weather, different heat, different building challenges, different everything. So that affected completely different rank for sure. And that affected things a lot differently too. So going into my second deployment thinking, okay, when I come home, I kind of know what to expect. It's going to be like this, and the other. I had to stop and think, no, my first appointment was different. It's a whole different unit, a whole different mission, a different country. Come home for my second appointment, those are going to be different things I have to adjust to. Even just the weather was completely different on my second appointment. So focus on your lane while you encourage and support others in their lane. So what's that thing they tell you on airlines? Put your mask on first, right? So this is saying put your mask on first. You can still encourage and support others, but if you don't take care of yourself and if you don't keep yourself working towards your own reintegration, you're not going to be able to help someone else as effectively because your time will get pulled more and more towards that reintegration that you're working on instead of being able to work on that at the same time as helping others in their lane. Okay, so here's a big one that we always see. Anybody seen those videos that go around TikTok and Facebook and Instagram, and it's, you know, those things where the soldiers surprise somebody when they come home and it's this perfect reunion, everybody's crying and hugging. You got to be really careful about those videos, right? Because every many videos we see of that, that's just those soldiers. Sometimes that's not what happens. Sometimes you get home and there's been a traffic jam and your family's late to get you. Sometimes you get home and there's been some issue and somebody can't get there. You get home, you have to stay home with medical or something like that, right? So social media does have its advantages, right? It's a great place to look around and keep in touch with folks and watch funny videos and such. But if you're not careful, it can lure you into making unrealistic comparisons. So don't think that just because you didn't get to walk on the center court and surprise your kids during a basketball game like you see on, you know, all the videos, don't think that wasn't a great reintegration. Don't think that your kids or your family weren't beyond excited to see you, even if you didn't do some elaborate production or get it on film like that, okay? So don't let it make you think that how you came home was wrong or not good enough. All right, next slide. All right, realistic expectation number 5. Reintegration is not a solitary process. It involves others around you. You have support available to help you face and overcome challenges of reintegration. Capitalizing on support from others is a strategy that can lead to greater strength and resilience. Your attitudes and actions have an effect on your circle of support and society at large, right? So you come home and don't think that you have to do this alone. Your battle buddies, as they call them, are not going to just melt away the second your feet touch soil, right? They're going to be there for you. Your family's going to be there for you. It involves everybody around you for you to come back and you to fit back into your life. So just remember that you're not going this alone. You have that circle of support. You have those folks you deployed with. You have, you know, the providers and everybody that's there to help you out with that. Know that and lean on that strength, okay? Next slide. All right. Expectations with your circle of support. What are some things that might be helpful to prepare for when it comes to reintegrating with your circle of support? Communicate things you feel your circle of support should know and prepare for. Be open to hearing the same from them. It's not about making demands, but about working together to establish realistic expectations, right? So I'm going to use myself as an example here. When I came up for my first deployment, I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to grab my dog from my folks' house. I'm going to move back to where my job was at the time I'd given up my apartment lease. And it's going to go right back to where it was. I'm going to have some time off, and we'll go right back to work. And that's not what happened. When I got home, while my dog was super excited to see her, a lot of things like pets and kids and families, they like routines. Routines are good. So I stayed with my folks for a week or two to get back into it, and then I took her with me instead of just showing up, grabbing my dog, heading off, right? Because that would have really upset her, and it would have made her misbehaving, and it would have been stressful on both of us. So just be open to changing your mind about something if the first tactic doesn't succeed, right? And don't just go there like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this, this, and this. This is how it's going to be, and you guys just have to live with it. Because you haven't been there for that time period, right? You need to work with your spouse, work with your parents, work with your kids, work with your job, to be able to slide back in there. Now, to be fair, all the work does not need to come from you, but you should be able to work with the people and the circumstances that you're going to be in, right? Don't just come in there with a bull in a china shop. Be willing to give and take, okay? Next slide. All right, we are on part 3, resilience in action. The task ahead of you is never greater than the strength within you, right? What's the saying we sometimes hear? You are given more than you can handle, right? So moving on to the next slide about that, let's talk about a super resilient example right here. We have LTJG, Everett Alvarez, and Everett Alvarez was, here's his bio here, he's one of the first POWs in the Vietnam War at Hanoi Hilton. He's one of the longest incarcerated. He was there for 8 years and 7 months. During his captivity, his wife divorced him, she got remarried, she gave birth to a child with her new husband. The POW's communication mechanism provided means to share pertinent information as well as boost morale. So when he was released in February 1973, along with 575 other POWs, and got to return home to his home in California. So during his incarceration, he maintained his fortitude, his sense of purpose, his hope. He stayed resilient while he was a captive. He is a recipient of a Silver Star, 2 Legions of Merit, 2 Bronze Star medals, a Distinguished Flying Cross, and 2 Purple Heart Awards. And he's an example of extraordinary resilience. So the next slide, you'll see why we say he's extraordinarily resilient, okay? This is him now. This is Mr. Alvarez now. His reintegration and day-to-day living requires resilience just the same as deployment and major life events. So imagine that this guy was a POW for 8+ years, and then he comes home, and there's all these challenges he had to face, right? He doesn't have a wife anymore. He's got to get back into society when all he's known for 8 years is this POW camp, which was a pretty brutal one, okay? He approaches life after deployment with the same resilience and determination as he brought to his captivity, right? So he was able to maintain his mental health while he was captive, and when he came back home, he just applied that to where he is now. He remained in the Navy, right? He forgave his wife, he remarried someone else, and then he had 2 more children. He earned his Juris Doctorate degree, became Deputy Director of the VA, and then Minister of the Peace Corps, and he's a published author and CEO of his own company. Now, this is one of those examples that we hold for, like, this guy went through absolute hell, and here he is now. He was resilient. Resiliency is not always these huge gestures, right? Resiliency could be something as simple as, hey, I went on deployment, I came home, and I was able to get back into my life. That's resiliency right there, because you're facing challenges and you're overcoming them. You're not letting them take you down. Okay? So next slide. Here's the lessons that we learned from LTJG Alvarez. So extraordinary resilience and everyday resilience. How does the story of Albert Alvarez and the resilience he displayed relate to the deployment cycle? Okay, utilizing coping skills and strategies and leaning into the support available to you can help you work through challenges, including the ones you are facing or will face. Resilience carries over from one phase to the next. Resilience doesn't just stop, okay? You're resilient as you get ready for deployment. You're resilient as you deploy itself. You're resilient all the way through your deployment. You can be resilient on your way home. You can be resilient while you're reintegrating. You're resilient for everything, right? Resilience doesn't just stop because you put your boots back on American soil. Okay? Maintain a sense of purpose, rely on your skills and strengths, utilize strategies, and capitalize on your circle of support. Right? Those people are there to back you up. They're there for you. That's why they're your circle of support. That's why you've chosen them, right? Because family's not just blood, family's who you pick. So the family is the people there who support you, who take care of you, who help you, who push you up. They don't push you down. All right, next slide. Okay, a sense of purpose. Sense of purpose is a big one. A sense of purpose is believing that your current actions contribute to something beyond the moment or even beyond yourself. It's common for soldiers to feel a loss of purpose as they transition from deployment to post-deployment. So this is the question for you guys. How might soldiers strengthen or rediscover their sense of purpose during reintegration? So this is a big one, right? This is, you come home, you spent that time period overseas, you have your mission. You have your orders, you have your day-to-day life there, you have what makes this mission successful, how can we push through it, it's this, there's immediate concern, it's, you know what every day is going to entail, you know what you have to do, you know what the mission is. When you get home and you don't have that mission anymore, that can be very jarring. I know it was for me both times, is to have that sense of purpose, and you get home and all of a sudden your sense of purpose is different. And that's, like I said, one of the things that's different between the active Army and the National Guard. In active Army, a lot of the times, you go back to your job. You may have 2 weeks here or there to get back to your family, and then you go back into the day-to-day military life. The National Guard would come home, and unless you're a full-time asset, that's not really what happens. We come home, we say goodbye to everybody. The next time we see them is at these events, is that yellow ribbon, right? And so you're left without that. Everything is gone. There's not that sense of purpose. Your sense of purpose can change. Just because you don't have that deployment sense of purpose anymore, that everyday structure, doesn't mean you don't have a sense of purpose at home. So the question on the slide is, how might soldiers strengthen or rediscover their sense of purpose during reintegration? So maybe your sense of purpose now is, I'm going to get back into my life the best way possible, with as little as possible, and just be there for my family. That can be your next purpose. That can be your driving force, right? Sense of purposes can change. Next slide. Okay, the benefit, volunteer activities, right? Benefits of volunteering in an organization that aligns with your values and passions, or for events of meaningful cause, include instill a sense of purpose and meaning, improve your mood, lower stress levels, promote a sense of unity and belonging, which helps to form connections with others. So this is a good way to get your sense of purpose. When I came back home, my first deployment, one of the things that really helped me is I helped with the local Humane Society. So where I'm from, my mom's the president of the Humane Society, and there is never an end to the work that can be done at a Humane Society, right? There's always something that can be done. It's like a farm, right? There's always a chore. And that helped me out a lot. So I would spend my afternoons until I got back to work, so I had terminal leave. I spent my afternoons volunteering to help out there because there's always something to be done. And anything you did helped things be better there. So it really helped me out. It helped me feel better. It gave me, like, this afternoon, I'm not just like, I don't know, not doing anything, hanging out. I had this thing, I got to go there, I got to do this chore because I'm the one that said I would do it, right? And that, you'd think that having something to do would make you more stressed. It didn't. It made me less stressed because I had something every single day that I had said I was going to do that made things better. So it promotes a sense of unity and belonging, which helps to form connections with others. So yeah, I met some folks at the Humane Society, with good friends now, and it was a good way to get out there and talk to folks and feel involved with the community and not disoriented and displaced. So here's a question for you to think about. What are some volunteer opportunities or organizations that you've been involved in or might recommend to others? It doesn't have to be volunteer work. You could be like, okay, if you get home during the right season, hey, look, it's a softball team, or it's touch football, or it's frisbee golf, or it's some kind of event or sport that you really like that you can get into with folks. It doesn't necessarily have to be volunteering for something, right? So just think about what are the opportunities that you can look around you that might help you, or you might be able to recommend to someone else around you. Next slide. All right. Do y'all see a different slide? It didn't change for me on this end. There we go.
We're on a slide called strategies.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. So strategies. During the deployment, what strategies did you use to support your ability to be resilient, such as manage stress, handle adversity, adapt to change, and overcome challenges? Okay. What strategies can you use to manage stress, foster resilience, and support a successful reintegration? And the reason I have successful in quotation marks there is because successful is subjective. right? What's successful to you may not be successful to the next person, and vice versa. So engage in activities that promote positive emotions can help alleviate your stress. Keep in mind that sometimes too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. Like, for instance, time off. For me, I was like, heck yeah, I've been working my entire adult life. I get home from deployment, I got terminal leave, I got time off. It took a week, and I couldn't stand it anymore. Could not stand to have that much free time, right? So you need to check in periodically to ensure the strategies that you're working on are promoting resilience. So I didn't feel very resilient after a week of time off, right? It was like, oh, I need something to do. I'm bored out of my mind. It's awful. It makes me nervous. Don't like it. So that's when I started doing the volunteer work. That's when I started working at other things and getting back into my workout. Okay? So just make sure you're doing periodic checks on yourself. And make sure that you're looking at your strategies that you use to mitigate your stress and handle things overseas, and see if maybe you can apply them at home. Maybe that super awesome workout will really help you out at home. Maybe your checks on your stuff will help out, right? Maybe your routine before bed will help you at home too. Just anything you did over there, think about how you may be able to apply that to your home life now that you're home. Okay, next slide. All right, so here we go. We're going to talk about a couple of strategies. Manage expectations, which means to actively seek accurate, relevant information to inform realistic expectations. Control the controllables, accept what cannot be changed, and take productive action on things within your control. Shift your thinking, shift how you're thinking, interpreting, or perceiving a situation. Type the good stuff. Be aware of and spend time focusing on the good things or positive events that happen and appreciate them. Deliberate breathing. Take a physical, mental, and emotional pause by controlling your breath as well as your thoughts and emotions. Deliberate communication. Actively listen to understand. Deliver messages openly, respectfully, and clearly. Pursue a goal. Identify a meaningful goal that creates a sense of purpose. Develop and follow a plan that promotes productive behavior. So what strategies did Lieutenant J.G. Alvarez appear to use that help foster resilience and success? What strategies have you used to foster your own resilience as to face adversity, manage stress, or adapt to change? Just know a slide that's meant to be really interactive, so just think on that. Like, what have you used to help yourself be more resilient? It could be some of these strategies that you see on the slide. It could be something else that you use, right? But what have you used to adapt to that change? Okay, next slide. All right, so this is going to be our last slide for this time because we're getting close to our time here. I don't want to get all the way into strengths and skills if we don't have enough time to finish it up. So this is something for you to think about between now and the next event, is what specific strengths and skills that soldiers hone during deployment can be helpful in facing the demands of reintegration. Think about the strengths and skills that you have used during your deployment, that you've used in your life. Think about what strengths and skills that you have in the military that can help you work on your reintegration, okay? And we're going to leave it there. Thank you guys so much, and hopefully it wasn't too much death by PowerPoint. It's usually supposed to be a pretty interactive class, but we're doing what we can. So any questions or concerns from anybody? All right. Well, thank you so much, and that's it for resilience for me.